Okay, we're doing it. We're doing it. We're gonna do a little political reaction here. Sam Seder and H3 finally got to have a conversation. We're gonna react to it. Semi live while we're playing some Evil Genius. Let me just make sure all the audio is working properly, so we're not get audio and my microphone is not properly plugged in. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Are we on the wrong mic? Hopefully we are. Hold on, let me see. No? What the fuck is going on with this mic? What is going on with this mic now? Oh, great. Great. Now this mic is fucked. Now this mic is fucked too. That sucks. Oh shit. I just bought this shit. How the fuck is this mic fucked already? What the hell, man? I don't even know what to do because this shit is like already max decibels. Maybe I could turn it up here. Would that help? No? What is going on, Mike? Huh? Where's the actual mic? Shit, man. I just bought this fucking microphone, man. It's crazy. I mean, it's not a mic, it's just a headphone, but still, like, what the hell, man? I don't know, I'm gonna react anyway. We'll see how the sound comes out. It's gonna have to be less aggressive with the desktop audio, I guess. What the fuck? Look at how low it comes out. This is just just stop updating shit, OBS. Just stop. Just just stop. Okay? Please. Like I got an update yesterday and my mic was like already fucked. I mean it wasn't already fucked rather. It was working fine. And now that I got this update, the mic is like working at like half strength or not even. Fuck me, man. Sorry about the language. Give me a second. Okay, how about now? Does that come out a little better? Not really. Fuck, man, this is gonna be terrible. Like, I can't even. Holy shit. What is going on, Mike? I really shouldn't have to turn it up this high to be heard. Like, let's be honest. I shouldn't. I don't even know how it's gonna come out. It might come out messed up if I do this. It's like it got messed up on the other end. It's like it got messed up on the receiver end. Maybe that's what it is? I don't know. Anyway, we're gonna do it anyway. We got the stuff going already. I'm playing. We gonna take over the world Wednesdays. We're gonna play Evil Genius. Gonna watch some Sam Seder clips. Let me drop this behind and capture two. Too much. Sorry, amateur hour over here. Alright, let's get it going. Oh, this is the worst. Alright, it's not the worst. There's worse things. Alright, let's watch.
Homeless fights? What was that shit used to call? Bum fights?
Yeah. Probably one of those Misfits fights or something. I occasionally will get a message to be in like an Aiden Ross boxing event or Misfits, but it's like the fight's in 2 weeks. You're gonna go against this guy who's 10 times bigger than you. I'm like, nah, I'm good.
No training, no preparation.
Yeah.
This guy, he's a seasoned fighter. He
Yeah.
weighs 300 pounds.
We need a fall guy.
He's an Olympic boxer. Will you fight him?
So I would gas out in 5 seconds and then I'd be fucked.
It does not sound like
so
he's
it didn't
trolling.
start
I mean,
here,
he's
but
getting
we're just
pretty
gonna let it
detailed
roll a
about
little
why he
bit.
said no.
Yeah, it definitely does seem real, but
They're talking
you could be
about
joking.
somebody
Oh,
who
I can't
is
believe
not
you
doing the
guys.
content.
How can it be that
Fight?
they're both trolling?
I don't think they're both trolling.
All right.
Yeah.
And who cares about Ice Poseidon? Sam is here. Let's talk to him.
All right, give me a moment. I will set up the Zoom call here.
We have Crowder ready.
Stand by.
The biggest thing is that iDubbbz hasn't denied it. You know what I mean? I feel like
it's
it'd be
real.
an
It's
easy
Hey.
thing to just deny.
I feel like it's real for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the show, Mr. Sam
Do I
Seder.
sound
Oh
okay?
my God, it's Sam Seder.
Oh,
What a
hey.
nightmare.
Oh no, Sam Seder! What a fucking nightmare!
How have you been, Sam, since we ruined Steven Crowder's life together? Nice to see you
I've
again.
been feeling very badly for him.
Yes,
over
we're
the
all.
years.
It's a tragic loss of a great career and so much potential.
Yes, it is. Hey, are we live now?
We are live on the H3 channel. Yes.
We are
I
live
want to
on
just
the
start by
dark side. Yay!
sort of apologizing in that I sent you a DM on Twitter 6 months ago or something. I
Oh,
was just
yeah.
going through to find out, and then I just realized you're no longer on Twitter.
Ah, yeah.
So that
He
explains
say
why
what,
I didn't
Dan?
hear back.
He may no. Yeah, I didn't see it. I wish I would have, but honestly, I don't know what to do because like I want to get off Twitter, but also it's kind of a pain because Twitter is the way that like I would reach out and speak to most people. But I also don't want to be on a platform that's like owned and perpetuates basically like Nazi shit. So
Yeah, this was yes, I understand that.
Yeah,
but I just wanted you to know I did reach out, and it was on me not to realize that. I just assumed he didn't want to respond, but
okay, well,
that was on me.
that's nice to know that you reached out. I appreciate that. And the reason I mean, obviously, people have been pushing for this conversation. I don't know if you know like the whole lore of it, or the background of it.
I
but-
don't. I mean, this is all I know is that Hassan reached out to me sometime. I mean, I got in touch with you October 24th, and I said that I was meaning to reach out for a couple of weeks. So I assume it was sometime in early October, and my thought we were just going to do this off air, but my understanding is that you and he were getting into it, and you felt like because he wasn't Jewish, he didn't have a perspective on this, and that's why he suggested that you speak to me. I don't speak for all
No.
Jews, just to be clear.
Right.
I speak for only for myself as a in any form.
Well,
whatsoever,
Sam,
so
allow me to speak for all Jews, if I may, today.
please.
No, but actually, I mean that's a total mischaracterization, which is kind of my problem with Hassan, which we can get into if you want. We don't even have to talk about Hassan, but
No.
basically, what I told him was that I was citing polling data that shows that about 70 to 80% of diaspora Jews have some kind of positive feelings towards the state of Israel. And he was disagreeing with me. And I mean, this is available by polls, readily available by Pew Research just last month, showing that. And I have, I don't know if you agree with that or not. I can pull it up, but 72% of diaspora Jews have some type of at least positive feelings about the state of Israel. I was stating that fact to him, and he was saying that I was wrong. And I said, "Who are you to talk about this?" I did not say that I only listen to Jewish people, which is a little bit of presumptuous and a little
No,
insane.
I don't think that's not what I took him to say. But yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
cool.
Hassan is that's irrelevant to me.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I
yeah.
think that I haven't seen that poll. I've seen ones that have said that they have a connection. They feel a connection, either strong or,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
somewhat,
Yeah.
which is different than positive per se.
So
but regardless, I mean, I
Yeah.
think if I don't know your upbringing at all, but I mean, certainly my upbringing, my Hebrew education was, I would say, 1/3 Holocaust, and I'm older, and so this was in the 70s, 1/3 into the 80s, 1/3 Holocaust, 1/3 Israel, 1/3 Hebrew, Hebrew and Jewish culture, and I certainly feel a strong connection to Israel, but I wouldn't call it positive these days.
Sure. I guess. Like, I think what the poll attempts to is basically, if you ask Hassan or a lot of people on the left, I think an emotional attachment is the way to describe this. So it's like if you think
I
it's
certainly have an emotional attachment, and it's not but it's not. I wouldn't describe it as positive.
This isn't the one, is it, Dan? There's the one that shows 73% of diaspora Jews. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. Regardless, basically, I want to flesh out my ideas, my thoughts, because I'm being characterized by Hassan and a lot of his cohorts as being, a Zionist, being pro-Israel, being a Israel apologist, being a genocide supporter, being a baby killer, being married to a baby killer, etc., etc. Right? My wife is Israeli. I don't know if you know that. So basically, I would like to just take the opportunity to explain my ideas, what I think about Israel, and you can tell me what you think, because apparently I will only listen to other Jewish people. So finally, I can speak to someone whose opinion matters to me. So thank you, as the official sanctioned Jewish man, Sam Seder, everybody. 100% Ashkenazi. You ever taken one of those?
I haven't, but I'm quite sure I have some Sephardic.
So basically, that what people have been doing to Ethan Klein has been basically what they would be doing to me is, it's like, you know what, you don't really know what you're talking about. You need to talk to my friend Candace Owens. She understands racism a lot better than that you do. You know what I mean? Like, this is the kind of thing that people do when they're trying to tell you to talk to someone who is from your ethnic group but agrees with me. It just there's a saying, skin folk ain't always kinfolk, and I think that this holds to be true here. But let's continue.
Jewish ancestry too, so I would mix.
That's good.
Vilnius and Hungary, I think.
Good for you. I think that's always a good thing. My friend, I'm 99.3%, so.
99.3%.
That's where my authority comes from.
I'll take your word for it.
So at any rate, let me start here by showing you a little context.
Oh, let me also just say, I got about an hour.
Okay, great. I'll just get into it then. Oh, here it is. Not that it matters, but okay, whatever. So let's start here. Let's start with a little icebreaker here. I know we're both fans of Tim Pool. Okay.
Okay.
Let's just enjoy this image together. Tim Pool recently at a wedding. And can you see? Can you see that?
Did he get married?
Well, I think he's attending a wedding.
Okay.
And he's very formally dressed, except he appears to be wearing a beanie.
That's hilarious. And kind of awesome.
I'm
not gonna lie. This guy will wear a beanie
so
even at a
I
wedding.
don't know. I thought this was a fine look for our good
like a nice
friend
lady.
Tim Pool there.
He looks good.
Yeah. So
looks good, Tim Pool.
Well,
with
let
the
me ask
beanie.
you this: what have you
That shit is official though. He's wearing a beanie even at a wedding. Oh, you know it, bro. That's what's up.
Like heard about me.
He's all about his brand,
I know that
bro.
your colleagues have an opinion.
I gotta be honest with you. I have not heard much. I have, like, the only thing I really saw that came up in any of my mentions on Blue Sky, I'm also on Blue Sky, is just this issue about talking to me, and I
was on Blue Sky, but nobody followed me, so I left.
I don't, look, from my perspective, I'm not, and I know that there's been, you mentioned in the email that there's been a lot of grief that you have taken, and I know that other people have also taken grief on all sides of this. And the personal aspects of this, and I don't believe that people. I don't actively attempt to deplatform people. I don't think people should do that. I
Oh,
don't think
boy.
people should be swatted or
I'm sure. I'm
tried
sure
to
you
be
don't think
fired
that.
or whatever, or have CPS sicked on them or any of that.
Like I don't know this guy's internet history or whatever, but I guarantee you that this is not true. Like there's no scenario where if somebody was, you know, an out and out KKK member, and they were out, on Elon Musk's Twitter, talking about, uh, executing black people or whatever. That Sam Seder, to his credit, wouldn't be out there saying, "Hey, bro, like this guy needs to be off the internet. What are we even doing?" Like he's talking about murdering people, and he's got a huge following that are all being radicalized by him. I don't think that there would be any context where Sam Seder's gonna say, "No, no, no, man, it's free speech, bro. Let's not pretend, bro."
I mean, I just don't think that's appropriate. I mean, I'm more interested in talking about my relationship to Zionism and my perspective on what Israel is doing and what is happening in Gaza and
So I totally agree. Let's just talk about the facts. Let me start by showing you this clip. So I've been actually talking about my feelings on the Israel-Gaza Palestinian dispute situation for a long time. I lived in Israel for 5 years as well when I was with my wife early on.
Okay.
Here's my position right after October 7th. And you can tell me if you have any, if you have any comments on any of my positions here. But this was this was from our episode a few days after October 7th.
Like what? Well, how many days after we talking
Liars
about?
and bad faith weirdos. So here's what I'll say about Israel, okay? Listen. This isn't the first time I've said it.
Okay.
And I'll say it many more times.
I'm listening. I'm listening, bro.
The
I'm
cabinet
listening.
is run by genocidal maniacs.
Okay. Oh boy.
They're led by Netanyahu, who should resign in disgrace and go to prison for being a war criminal.
Oh wow.
He's made a coalition of the most radically conservative freaks that don't represent, by the way, the majority of Israelis.
I can see that.
And they're hell-bent on
But they
genocide,
voted for him.
overtly.
You could say the same thing
Committed
about
tons
Donald
of war
Trump. though.
crimes in Gaza, including the killing of children, obviously, because
And Joe
Gaza is one
Biden.
of the most densely populated places in the world.
Depending on your political persuasion.
50% of the residents are under 18, so when you bomb a building, the chances that you're killing children is pretty much 100%. Okay? It's fucking barbaric. It's unacceptable. It's disgusting. I've seen videos, I saw videos of Palestinian dads holding his dead 5-year-old daughter. I mean,
I don't need to watch this part because it just gets a little too emotional. But I mean, so that was my take right after October 7th, and obviously that was coming off the end of me being I'm an Israeli citizen. The morning of October 7th, me and my wife were up at 3 a.m. as families were calling into news stations from their safe houses, people being burned alive with their families being murdered while on the phone with news. So coming off of that emotional,
and you're like, don't do anything to the
shock,
Palestinians.
right, this was my reaction. Now, I don't know if there's something Zionist or pro-Israel I said there, but maybe I don't understand.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't characterize it as that.
I might. I think much of what you said was true. I'm not sure, frankly, if what we've seen Israel do in terms of Gaza is not broadly supported in Israel. I'm not seeing the body politic. I mean, I was doing a lot of interviews with Israeli reporters earlier in 2023.
Oh wow!
About the protests against what Netanyahu was doing with the judiciary, and there was a question as to whether Israelis would see that this autocracy that Netanyahu was attempting to sort of impose on the country wasn't an extension of what was happening in places like the West Bank and in Gaza in some fashion, and more so the West Bank at that time. And so I think it's hard to make an argument. And look, I would make a even, it's not a perfect analogy as to what's happening in this country, but, when you talk about the Israeli population not, having a problem with what's going on in Gaza, I don't see a lot of evidence of that. There's certainly, I would imagine, a percentage of Israelis, and I know some of them who think that Israel should stop its assault there, but I don't think I don't see a lot of evidence that a year and a half later, after you said those things, that this is not the character of the vast majority of Israeli society. I mean, I'm not necessarily convinced that they are as aware. I mean, I've talked to people who have reported in the West Bank, and they said they would go from the West Bank into Israel, and the lack of awareness of what was happening in the West Bank by Israelis was shocking to them.
Shocking.
So, I can't say if the Israeli population had a
If they
full
really care, is
understanding
what
of
he's
what was
saying.
happening in Gaza, that they wouldn't change their mind. But I don't see a lot of evidence of it.
So, as you touched on, this was made basically before the war started. And I think that the unfortunate, really tragic outcome of the war is how much it's jaded and radicalized, I think, people in Israel. It's really, I
Some
think
people?
people in Israel feel like isolated. They feel like,
Under
I mean,
attack?
the sentiment in Israel is basically that the world wants, the country to disappear. And and obviously, like, that's a much more nuanced conversation, but the feeling there has
But I
definitely
mean-
radicalized a lot since the war started. It's gotten a lot worse.
And I think, I think that gets to it to some extent. I mean, you have this wholesale slaughter. I was looking up, we killed in Iraq, depending on what numbers you want to look at. But
I didn't kill anybody
I
in
think
Iraq,
it's
bro.
safe
I don't know
to
what
say
you're talking about.
directly hundreds of thousands of people. But
Oh.
even like the
Well, I
number
didn't
of
do
children
anything
that we
like that.
killed
What?
in Iraq, I think has been surpassed
What have you guys
by
been
what's
doing?
happened in Gaza. And I think one of the things that I find
I do not
shocking
endorse this.
is that the sense and look, I experienced this with family members, where the sense that there's a victimization, for instance, let's say on college campus of Jewish students, and I think
Right.
that to look at what's going on, the totality of what's going on,
The
and
totality.
to
Okay.
perceive the victims of what's happening here to be the Israeli citizenry or Jews in this country, I think it just blows my mind. I mean,
I don't know what he means by this.
People can care about two things at once. Why should people?
absolutely.
Well, people,
No, absolutely.
People
I
who
agree,
are
but I think-
uninvolved in the war, if they're being like victimized in a separate situation because of their Jewish identity, that's a problem, don't you think?
Oh,
Right.
I do, but
And
I
you can
think
care
that,
about
like,
two things. You can't be like, oh, these people are ridiculous for caring about anti-Semitism on college campuses because the war's happening. I mean, both we can care about two
100%.
things. And obviously, one is way worse,
if-
right? One is way
well,
worse.
But that's the point. I mean, one is way worse, and what's happening
Wait,
in
People
Gaza. I
should
mean,
tolerate being discriminated against based on their identity. You know what I mean? Like, of course,
Well,
who
I don't
wouldn't
think-
react to that?
I don't think that people are. I don't think that people are being victimized. I mean, certainly, listen, anti-Semitism is real.
Okay.
It was real when I was a kid. There was many times I had pennies thrown at me growing up and playing basketball. I mean, there was a lot of. I've experienced anti-Semitism.
That's anti-Semitism?
But put it in the context of like you're a parent, I'm a parent. If my kid is going through something very difficult, it's obviously difficult for me, but it's more difficult for them, and it's a question of
Right. Like
prioritizing
anti-Semitism.
these things. You can have two thoughts in your head at the same time, but to center oneself or to perceive that one's victimization is sufficient to ignore the
Well,
the
I
even
gotta
much
stop you because I don't think
more
anyone. I don't know
horrible-
who's doing that.
Well, I mean, I just said like you just presented as the Israeli population feels like they're
well,
isolated
so
and this and that.
There's two
I'm
different
just-
separate conversations. There's like the American Jewry, who's like, I have nothing to
Right.
do with that place, and then the
100%.
Israelis, right? So like
Right.
when you're
but
when you're talking
in
about
terms of the way that you characterized the Israeli feeling,
yeah,
was that they feel isolated, et cetera, and I can understand that, but
Right.
do not have the first thought of like we are committing, like you say, genocidal acts. And if people want to call it genocide, I don't, obviously it's got to be, it's a legal term, but I think that it's colloquially speaking, at the very least, it is a genocide.
Colloquially
And
speaking.
to
Okay.
not
Colloquially
recognize
speaking,
that
it's a
as the
genocide.
fundamental issue, the first issue, I think
I'm
is
just
blinkered.
curious about
I
one
don't know
thing.
how
Let me
else to
pause
say
it
it. I mean,
real quick. I'm just
it's a little
I'm just gonna pause
gobsmacking.
it right
well, so
quick.
I do agree with you that obviously in Israel,
Excuse
people.
me. You're trying to pause it. All right. So colloquially, that's a genocide, right? So
They're going nowhere.
does Hamas invading Israel,
Barely rumpled my
killing 1,000 people, targeting innocent civilians, kidnapping innocent civilians, right? Isn't that a genocide? I wonder if Sam Seder thinks that killing the deliberate act of killing Israelis, anyone that they saw, indiscriminate attacks, is also considered a genocide, colloquially at least, right? Colloquially, because I don't know. I think it kind of meets the definition of a genocide, but I don't really know if Sam Seder would agree with that. But I don't know. Let's just keep watching. That's just my 2 cents.
Both I think the problem, and just to say on a higher level, I agree with you. Like obviously the people in Israel compared to like what's on October 7th, they were victims. After everything that's happened, obviously whatever they've suffered pales in comparison to the mass destruction and like wanton death of civilians in Gaza and what's happening in the West Bank too. Lots of awful stuff. That being said, I think the problem with Israel, just to try to explain what's happening there, because I do agree with you, is just like the media apparatus and the feeling that they have there. It's like there's not a lot of space emotionally and like even the information that they're consuming. I think that would allow them to have that kind of like self-realization. And like you said, a lot of Israelis don't know what's happening
There are
necessarily.
some. I mean,
There are some, of course.
we what was it in the fall? You had the publisher of Haaretz, speaking out about what was going on there. And the paper was essentially, a cutout, or there was an attempt by the government to basically shut them down on to some extent. I mean, so.
Well, so what's your
yes, I
explanation
think that-
why Israelis don't care? It's not that they're evil, right?
Well, I think, look, there's, I'm sure that there is a
Portion of them that are.
mass, sort of like a failure to deal with
That's what
trauma.
he's gonna
I think,
think,
but
isn't
I
he
think some
thinking?
of it is, frankly, a racism.
Oh, yep. There it is.
And I think, how can you explain, how can I explain how I just watched a clip of people at a Trump rally chanting USA, USA, to watching a video of people being, taken into that prison in El Salvador and having their heads I mean, I don't know how I can explain that. So
Yeah,
I
I
don't
can
know how I
explain
can
that.
explain how the Israelis are able to the extent that they can see what's going on in Gaza, have that reaction. But I know that it's wrong. And I think, some of it undoubtedly is a racism. Some of it is, maybe some type of mass failure to deal with trauma. I mean, I don't know all those. I think
Mass failure
part
to
of it.
deal
I
with
think
trauma.
there's
Okay. I mean,
some
that's
of
a take.
the makeup of immigrants to Israel over the past several decades. I'm sure all of that enters into it, and I'm not in a position to sort of like be able to psychoanalyze it beyond this sort of vague notions.
Sure.
But
Yeah, and I
from
agree.
my
Yeah.
perspective, it's gobsmacking, and to me,
Gobsmacking.
it has shown, and I never identified myself as a Zionist as a kid or through the years, and I
Me neither.
never identified myself as an anti-Zionist. I don't think I think those, it wasn't really until someone heard me articulate my perspective on this that they referred to me as anti-Zionist, and I don't really care one way or another how I'm labeled, but to me it shows a failure of that system of government that Israel has, and it has failed both from a perspective of what I think some people had as a notion of Zionism in the 19th century. It has been a failure in terms
Where the heck
of
is Agent X?
keeping Jews safe, frankly. It seems to have been a massive failure. And so I can't operate as someone who lives in Israel, but I can operate as someone who is an American in terms of like what we support, which is why I think we should end all aid. And as a Jew who sees my religion being used as what I perceive as a fig leaf for what Israelis or Zionists are doing, and so I mean that's where I'm coming from with this. That I don't know if there is a psychological state that can justify this. In fact, I don't think there is, and so
It's just an attempt to understand, not justify. Because I mean, it is what it is, right? Like it is the way that it is, and so that's for a reason. And it's just trying to explain it. That's all. I agree with everything you're saying. But actually, one thing I want to pivot to and ask you about.
Do you think that we should cut all aid to Israel?
I think that'd be justifiable. Yeah.
And
well, we're talking about like military aid and stuff. Yeah, for sure. Israel.
I mean,
Israel can make their own bombs and shit.
Every
if they need, like, they don't need American military. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah, but we sell them weapons, bro. We need that money. Stop trying to take away our customers.
Well, what I mean is they're not entitled to it, to say more accurately. So yeah, I think military aid should be cut for sure until.
God, stop
Jew,
H3.
and I mean, obviously you have a different connection to Israel than I do, as through your family and whatnot, and through having lived there. But as a Jew, I take such offense to what is being done ostensibly to protect me and my family and my ancestors and my progeny and all of it. It is, I mean, I think it's, I think the conflation of Zionism and Judaism is both not keeping Jews safe and is wrong at its core. And we can see what it's even doing in the context of this country, the way that it's enabled Trump and to attack universities and to attack the law firms and whatever. And so I don't.
You know who enabled Trump? Everyone telling people to vote third party, Sam Seder. I'm not talking about anybody in particular.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. And part of the reason why this chasm started between me.
You know who enabled Trump?
And
the people who voted for him.
So when he decides that somebody is an enemy of the movement for criticizing him, which is what I perceive happened.
You know who enabled Trump? Let me look this up real quick so I can show it to you guys. Hold on. Oh, it moved it? Okay, so it's now doing the blank one? Shit. Alright. No, it's still showing the right one. Okay. Let's go here. Let's do this right here. Same as this. Yeah, I'm about to show you who enabled Trump. I'm about to show you. About to show you the people who enabled Trump. So this is from the Ethan Klein Content Cop promo art. That promo picture that was taken by iDub. I want to show you who enabled Trump right here. I want to show you because these people want you to forget who enabled Trump for real. Why is this picture so small? Okay, I guess this will do better, I guess. Alright, let me go ahead and put that up. I want to show you who enabled Trump right here. I can show you because it ain't even. It's funny that this is the thing because these people say they support the Palestinian people. It's hilarious. What the fuck? They're willing to what they call supporting the Palestinian people. It doesn't come up. I hesitate to. Alright, so let me do this instead. I'm just gonna copy this right here. So I'm gonna lose my place in the stream. Maybe not. I'm not logged into my X account again. Alright, look at these fuckers. Alright? Look at this. Make America Great Again. Frogan. I don't know who Sean whatever this guy is. Sean the black guy? He's alright. This is who enabled Trump right here. The people who were telling you to vote third party actually voting for Trump. That's them. Look at them. Look at them. We want Palestinians to be free from Gaza. These are the people who enabled Trump, right? Dearborn, Michigan, highest Muslim population in the United States. Who did they vote for? They voted for Donald Trump. Hammontrack, Michigan, highest. It's another high concentration Muslim city. I think it's the largest Muslim. No, I think Dearborn is the largest city. Either way, they're both on 1 and 2. They also voted for Trump. So like, I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know. The world is not so complicated. It's not so simple always.
Then it kind of becomes reality. For example, one of my criticisms of is him not supporting Kamala Harris. Now, would she have stopped the war and been like a perfect dove? I don't know, but I know she would have been better than Trump. I know that for sure. Trump's posting like this insane Riviera, Gaza, the Riviera with Trump hotels.
I mean, he put a guy in charge that doesn't even recognize that Palestine is a thing. Like, he's the guy who he put in charge of Israel, the diplomat to Israel. That guy doesn't even think Palestine is real, my guys. He doesn't even think that Palestinians should live there. Mike Huckabee doesn't think that you're even like that Palestine even exists. That Gaza, they think that Gaza should belong to Israel and the West Bank should belong to Israel, and that the rest of the people should just shoo. But these are the people that support. This is the people that they supported. These are the people. that they thought was going to be worse than Kamala Harris. And I don't know how far this is going to go, but like if you're talking about the difference between sanctions, if you're talking about the difference between Biden even and uh, Donald Trump, I don't know if they're going to get into that, but Biden had sanctions on settlers. Biden ended the sale of the 2,000-pound bombs. Donald Trump released those on the first day. The guy that you guys voted for, the guys that you guys are wearing that Make America Great Again hat. So the one thing that Trump didn't say, and was obvious between their press conference that I watched between them, is that Netanyahu's idea was for the United States to take over Gaza. He doesn't say that because it's more convenient for it to be Trump's idea. But Trump was pushing back on that. He was like, maybe you want to share, Bibi, whose idea it really is. Bibi was like, let's talk about something else, actually. It's because it's his idea. But it doesn't matter because you put the guy in office who would even entertain that as a possibility. And just to make it completely to make it complete, to make the distinction between the two, there's nothing that Biden recognized for the continuation of Israel. He would definitely, or Kamala would never have recognized Gaza becoming part of Israel. They would never have recognized that. There would have never been any kind of situation where there would have been any kind of settlements or anything like that in Gaza. On the other hand, Donald Trump is the guy, literally the guy, who the March of Return was March for the Right of Return or whatever in 2021. That's what it was about. Because what Trump did was, in order to help Netanyahu win the election, was he recognized Jerusalem to be part of Israel. So he moved the embassy, the U.S. embassy, to Jerusalem, saying that Jerusalem and recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and that's what the March of Return was about. So yeah, that's the guy you voted for. That's the guy you're supporting. These are the people who say they support Palestinians. Just so you understand that these poor souls have no real allies. They have no real allies. All they have is ops, right? They have people that profit off their suffering and want their suffering to continue so they can continue to profit.
And like he's sending the 20-pound bombs. He's telling Netanyahu, you have a blank check to do whatever you want. Now, like,
the kid just came out that Biden didn't, did nothing to. I mean, listen, I think.
Well, what I'm talking about.
So again, this isn't like this is facts, right? Like, I'm not saying anything out of the that isn't checkable right now, that everybody knew at the time, because they were trying to say that this isn't a big deal, but it is a big deal that the guy that they voted for reversed them on the first day. If it wasn't a big deal, then what does it matter, right? He reversed those sales on the first day. Stop.
I suspect that I suspect that she would not have had the same policies as Trump. But at the same time, I think that it was a massive failure, both on a real human level. Like it would have, I think, had she articulated anything even remotely close to what I would hope her difference would have been, I think it would have probably had implications in the election. But I think perhaps even more importantly, it would have maybe implicated the behavior of Israel. So, I mean, look, I chose to support Harris because I perceived her as the lesser of two evils. But
yeah, me too. And I think that that's an important distinction to make at a time like this. Yeah,
I can certainly understand how some people were just so repulsed by what was happening
that they voted for Trump, that they helped him win. I find that to be ridiculous.
To vote for Harris, I think
I understand why they didn't. I totally understand the perspective. Like, I'm so disillusioned with this
Stop lying.
administration. I can't support Kamala. But at the same time, like, a hugely influential political streamer like Hassan, who has a huge influence on people, I think, and who's someone who was at the who's very vocal about being pro-Palestine. I feel like it's an abdication of responsibility to be like, I'm not voting for Kamala, or I'm not telling you who I voted for. I suspect he voted for Jill Stein personally, but either way, he hasn't said, and he wouldn't endorse her. Now, like, if you're just like a random protester or whatever, and like you're like, I'm so disgusted, I don't want to vote, that's fine. But if you're like a high-level political streamer, and basically you have the capacity to weigh like the lesser of two evils and what that means, I feel like it's an abdication of responsibility to not make that call.
I mean, I certainly have been critical of people who, generally don't vote for the lesser of two evils, but I think, and certainly, in the run-up to the 2016 election, I certainly, that was my perspective. But again, what the Biden administration was doing was so horrific that her inability
we were at war with Israel?
signal that there would be any change.
I didn't realize that we were the ones who were at war with Hamas. My bad.
Sometimes you have to take this at face value. And,
my bad. I thought it was Israel.
Certainly, definitely.
My bad. We were horrible, man.
The government
we did all the bombing.
Like Trump is. But
we didn't even have anybody kidnapped or anything.
Probably this is the first election in as long as I've been doing this, and I think it's been 5 elections now. I'm old. That I couldn't really condemn someone from taking that position. Based upon what we were seeing. I mean, it's
not just some random person. I do, and I'll tell you why. Kamala Harris wanted a ceasefire. She stated that. Trump said finish them. I mean, let's be honest. Like for
that
someone
was
like
Haley.
Hassan,
I want to see.
That was not Trump. That was Nikki Haley.
But we found out that Biden, in fact, did nothing to bring that about. So,
well, you can talk about Biden. I'm talking about Kamala Harris. What she said.
I mean,
well, she's the vice president. I mean, at the end of the day, she doesn't really do that much, right?
No. But I'm talking about
not
the candidate,
commander-in-chief.
Biden, as a president, said he wanted a ceasefire. She, as a candidate, said I want a ceasefire.
Well, do you not? Even if you're like, I don't know how much I
That's
trust
it.
them. One's like, I want a ceasefire, and the other one is like, finish them.
Well, listen, I think it was certainly
That
obvious
was Nikki
to me that Trump
Haley,
was going to
buddy.
be worse.
That wasn't
but
Trump.
I think like if you're trying to get the candidate
Trump
to,
is the one who banned them from coming to the country.
Show some indication of this, I can understand.
Trump is the guy who gave them
I would
Jerusalem.
disagree with it, but
yeah, I get your point too. Like, ultimately, I understand why people wouldn't want to support them because of what they've seen, and like that, it feels like It feels like
it also shows a tremendous amount of just like electoral malfeasance on her part. I mean, they made an active choice, and I think you could have put that Palestinian lawmaker from Georgia on stage. They made an active choice to signal to whomever they were signaling that they weren't going to do anything. Now, I happen to believe that she would have been better on this than Trump. But they were making an active choice to do that. I mean, it was really electoral malfeasance on her part, in my opinion. But I don't know what the point of litigating this is per se. But
well, we're talking about kind of my criticisms of Hassan and how this well, let me show you this.
I don't care.
Yeah,
about,
I know.
I honestly, I'm like
let me show
I
you
don't really
this.
care about your criticism of
I
that's dope.
honestly,
Yeah,
Good
you
job,
don't care. I know.
He doesn't care.
And why should you? I don't blame you. We talked about anti-Semitism, and you think that I don't want to put words in your mouth, right? But you seem to have conveyed that, compared to the destruction and everything happening, the genocide, the loss of life in Gaza, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, that obviously that's way more important. So let me show you an example of something, and again, I know you don't care about the drama. To me, this isn't drama. This is one of the biggest, most influential streamers spreading something that I think is really dangerous. And you can agree or disagree, but it's a short clip, but I'll show it to you, and you tell me what you think.
This will never happen, but in a totally just world, any kind of regardless of your background, any kind of fucking
Regardless
Zionist
of your
tendency should be
background.
treated in the same way as
Uh-oh.
as being a fucking rabid neo-Nazi. And you shouldn't even let someone be the fucking local dog catcher as Felix was posting if they've ever exhibited any sort of like positive feelings about the state of Israel.
Oh my
I'm
God!
so
I don't think
serious
that all
about
the
this.
Jews should get kicked out.
No,
Oh, that's
by the way,
it. He
didn't
can't be
misspeak.
elected
He
as
doubled
anything
down
but
on it
dog
yesterday. He
catcher.
said, "No, I agree. That's what I think."
I think that you shouldn't kick all the Jews out of Israel. Fuck that. You should never be elected to anything ever. That's not anti-Semitic at all. No, it's not anti-Semitic because it's about Israel and not Jews. It's just that, look, I want to only talk about the country. It's only about the country, the only country in the world that is run by Jews. That's it. Like, that's it. Like, it's not. It's just about the country where the Jews, where a lot of Jews live, and the only country in the Middle East where the majority of Jews live. No. It's just about the country itself. It's not about Jews. It's a little fucking stupid, man. Like, I don't have anything against Dominicans, let's say, right? I just have a big problem with people that eat plátanos. That's it. I got a big problem with people that eat plátanos. Like, it's not really about Dominicans. I mean, I know that it's just the majority of Dominicans that eat plátanos. But, hey, I just got a big problem with people that eat plátanos. This shit doesn't really work if you're not already trying to believe, if you're not already thinking that, if you're not critically analyzing what you're saying. If you are critically analyzing what you're saying, yeah, if you are only always talking about disbanding if you're talking about ethno-nationalism and blah, 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 and the only time that you ever refer to this is not like in reference to Saudi Arabia or Yemen or the UAE or Qatar or whatever, and you're only talking about Israel, you're not in your right state of mind. You're not, it's not really about ethno-nationalism or anything like that. It's not about that. It's not about ethno-nationalism, right? It's not about that. It's about the Jews. It's okay, but say it, right? Like, say it.
Just to recap, he says, anyone that's had positive feelings at any point about the state of Israel is a neo-Nazi that's not fit to be a dog walker. Now, to me, that seems like extremely dangerous, dehumanizing language about what could arguably be 70% of the Jewish diaspora, and certainly probably people in your family.
I'll tell you,
Don't pay
there's
for this,
some
Sam.
hyperbole there,
Don't pay for
but
this, Sam. Don't do it, Sam.
I think. I mean, he says Zionism, and I'll tell you what I think is really.
Sorry, I gotta correct you. He says Zionism, and then he says if you had positive feelings about the state of Israel at any point in your life.
I gotta tell you, if you look at what's happening right now, and you have positive feelings about Israel,
He said at any point in your life, Sam. Just to be clear about what he said.
Would I have said at any point in his life, someone's life? But I just think this is such a petty, like the idea that we're going to police. Hold on, let me respond. You want me to respond this?
No,
like I say, I don't care about this. But if you're going to force me to respond to it, what Israel is doing right now is so far beyond the idea that someone says any time in your life or not or whatnot. He's talking about Zionism, and frankly, I think it's very difficult for me to
as the approved Jew,
understand how someone could have positive feelings at this time. Now, you want to say in the past and what? Okay.
Yeah.
Like I say, I will grant you at any time in your life that is a too broad a step. But wait, let me finish.
Yeah.
But see. You go in and you're making this about anti-Semitism by doing this hopscotch about a poll that people had positive feelings that Jewish people do, and then therefore he is anti-Semitic. And honestly, that type of conflation, I think, is so dangerous and so disingenuous. I mean, I don't want to get too passionate about this, but I will tell you something. I have had a guy who went to my bar mitzvah, my sister's bar mitzvah, my kid's bar mitzvah,
Right.
sat at Passover with me 3 or 4 times,
Right.
call my father and ask him if I'm anti-Semitic. Now,
Oh,
this is just one.
oh my
that is
God,
just
Sam,
an
that's
example,
horrible.
an illustration of conflating when he's clearly talking about Zionism. Was it hyperbole to say any time in life, whatever? The fact of the matter is this conflation is dangerous for Jews. It is a fig leaf and a way of weaponizing anti-Semitism that has enabled Donald Trump to do the shit he's doing, that has enabled the slaughter of thousands upon thousands of children and women and men, for that matter. It is not keeping Israelis safe. And this type of conflation, Ethan, is what I find far more irresponsible, frankly, than the idea that he said positive any time. I mean, look, you do a show
Sam,
4 hours a day. He does a show 5 or, as far as I could tell, 15 hours a day. And to focus in on that one tiny clause.
This is
of
not
that
one
sentence,
tiny clip, Sam.
Well,
you don't know.
wait
This is a
second.
totality of behavior.
But you
And
wanted
by
to
the
bring
way,
this
it's
up.
easy,
I don't
and I
care
appreciate
about
that
it.
you can hand wave it away and say that it doesn't.
No, I'm not hand waving it away.
You kind of are.
I'm saying
You're
this
saying it
conflation.
doesn't. You're saying
This
actually
conflation.
I'm
I'm
wrong
saying-
for caring
I'm
about
saying-
it.
Yep.
No, yes,
Yep,
in
that's
fact,
what
I'm
you're
saying this
saying.
inflation is incredibly dangerous. It is
I
disingenuous.
think it's dangerous
right now,
to
there is,
ignore
there is-
what's being described
No,
as
no, no, no.
dehumanizing violent language for American Jews that have
I'm
nothing to do
sorry.
with the
That
war.
is a complete mischaracterization of
It's
that.
not.
He
He's
never
not
says the
fit to be a
word
dog
Jews.
walker.
He never says the word
He
Jews.
says a neo.
Listen, how many
They,
members of
they don't
Kufi
say.
have
They didn't say the
positive,
word. They didn't say the word. They didn't say the word,
feelings
guys.
towards
Let
Israel?
me say.
Oh,
I mean,
wait.
he
How many millions
They didn't
of
say the
members
word.
of
That's
Kufi,
it.
the Christian organization, have positive feelings for Jews? It is clearly not a function of their Judaism. It is
Right.
not a function of their Judaism, and so it
But
is
it
not
describes
specifically.
most Jews.
No.
Yes, it does, Sam.
It describes most Christian evangelicals too.
It may do them too, but it also describes
Okay,
73%
so
of
that
Jews.
is not anti-Semitism. That is
Well,
about
I don't
a
know. What do
belief.
you call it when somebody's discriminating against the vast majority of a racial or religious group, Sam?
I'm sorry. You want to look at evangelical Jews?
I
You
don't
can say
care
he's
about
anti-Christian
evangelical
too.
people.
Okay, but I'm talking about the way you're constructing this.
I
And
think
so
you're.
you can say the same thing about Christian evangelicals too. It is not anti-Semitism. It is not. It
Well, so,
just isn't.
like, taking one example in
It's because you're
isolation,
calling
which is
him
what
an
we've done here.
anti-Semite, my
you're
guy.
the
That's
one who
what. It,
gave
that's
it
why
to
he's
me.
taking
well,
it so
I only want to
personally.
talk Fundamentally, I
but
disagree
I'm
with
using
you.
your example, and in that instance, that is not anti-Semitism.
Well,
And
I
this
disagree.
Conflation. Okay, well, that's our disagreement.
Yeah.
But I think that conflation is incredibly dangerous.
Well, I
It's
disagree
dangerous
as well
For
on that.
Jews,
I think-
it's dangerous for this society.
I think, frankly, I think it's dangerous to what I perceive as hand waving what's happening here. I know you said you aren't doing
I'm
that.
not hand waving. This
Yeah,
is,
no,
this
you're
is
doing
a
the
function
opposite. You're
of
endorsing-
decades,
Yeah.
decades of
Nah,
thought
base.
about this.
Base.
So, right.
Uh,
Sure. But
base?
the point is, you're saying that this is not dangerous. How dare you care about this? I think it's dangerous
No,
to
I'm not saying that
to.
at all.
I personally, I mean,
I'm
Jewish
saying
people
the
have a collective
mischaracterization
memory of
of it
trauma,
as
Sam, and it
anti-Semitism.
starts a certain way, and it starts with people. It starts with dehumanizing language, like saying you're not fit to walk a dog. I mean, what are we
He's
doing
not
here?
talking
It's,
about
it's
Jews.
irresponsible language.
He's not talking about
He's
Jews.
talking about 73% of Jewish people.
No, you said that.
No, that's a poll that's readily available.
No, you made that connection. He did not. Because we have millions upon millions of members.
I
of
have a
Kufi.
better
We
example.
have millions upon millions in this
I have,
country
I
of
have a,
evangelicals.
I have a better example. Like, this is kind of like, you know, when people are saying, look, like, I'm not racist, right? Like, I'm not racist, but like, I just, you know, think that people in this job that are not qualified just shouldn't be here. And who are the people who are not qualified? These minorities. Like, obviously, it's them. You know what I mean? Like this is the level that we're coming to. Like, to say that this isn't anti-Semitism. Like, this is the level that we're coming at. Like, oh, of course you're not racist, my guy. I get it. It's all about just people that are not qualified to be here. Like, you know, this is how we get the Trump administration. You know, there's no black guy that's a 4-star general. I mean, somehow he's DEI, but Pete Hegseth is not. What? A Fox News host? Over a fight. That's not DEI. That's DEI as fuck. But it's DEI. You know, it's not to them. It's not DEI. Nobody calls that DEI because it's a white guy, right?
Who also believe the same thing.
Does your dad
and
have?
You cannot say it's
could you
anti-Semitism.
Could you
You
describe
cannot
your?
say it's anti-Semitism if you're also including millions upon millions, far more Christians than Jews.
Would you say that your father, who you mentioned, said something to you that he's ever in his life had positive feelings about the state of Israel?
I've had positive feelings of Israel.
Whoa.
That's it. You're on the bus, buddy.
Does your dad
you're
have
on
any
the bus.
positive feelings about it now?
I would assume so.
Not in terms of like I support them, but
I've
like
had
I think
positive
Israel.
feelings. I went to Israel on.
Okay, good. Then you're a neo-Nazi,
my
not fit to walk a dog.
That's
How do you
it.
feel
You
about
got
that's
him.
you saying that.
that?
That
That's
is not
literally
what
what he said. I'll play it again.
I think like this will
Got
never
him.
happen, but in a totally just
That's
world,
it, Sam Seder. No
any
more
kind
dog
of-
kit walker for you.
regardless of your
No more
background,
dog walking
any kind
for
of
you, Sam
fucking
Seder.
Zionist tendency should be treated in the same way as being a fucking rabid neo-Nazi.
An agent
And
has been
you
captured.
you shouldn't even let someone be the fucking local dog catcher as Felix was posting if they've ever exhibited any sort of like positive feelings about the state of Israel.
Like if anybody
I'm
has
so
like had
serious about
any
this.
sort of
Another thing
positive
he's doing-
feelings about the
By
DEI,
the way,
like
and
they should,
Hassan is.
they should,
Hey, listen.
they
He
should.
plays
I mean, that's
around
not
with the term
racist, right? To say
Zionist,
that,
right?
like
You
if
could say
anybody's
that's a
had
wrong-
anything positive about DEI, that they shouldn't be elected to be so much as a local dog catcher. I mean, sure,
trap has
they're
been
not
triggered.
directly saying the N-word or anything like that, but you're saying that anyone who believes that there should be equity and inclusion, that there should be different races, and that people from different races and different ethnicities should be considered for employment, is racist. You know, it's not racist. Like if somebody had the opinion, or this is Sam Seder's position would be that it's not racist if somebody would have the opinion that nobody who believes that people should be allowed to have,
A scheme has
these
succeeded.
jobs, that they're obviously not racist.
Thing to say, but he's not talking about Jews. He's talking about people who have exhibited these positive feelings, and that includes millions upon millions of Christians. More Christians.
Okay, well, listen,
than
I don't think
Jews
they're
exist in the
neo-Nazis,
world.
not fit to walk dogs, either. I think it's insane
Somebody is
language.
Listen, you don't want to tell me that you have never engaged in hyperbole. You and I both are in this
It's not
business,
just
and
a-
we do that.
Yeah, you're right. You know, I just think that, you know,
Got him.
I just think
Oh, he's
that, like,
he's working his way up to
It's
something
an
now.
unfair thing
I
to
He's
just
say.
buttoning
think
up
like
his
Arabs
jacket.
that support Israel aren't
anti-Semitism.
fit to walk a dog.
It is not anti-Semitism.
Okay, well, we're
And
at
you
an
could say
impasse
that
on
it-
this one.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, but anyway, another thing he does is he says Zionist tendencies, and he's someone that plays around with Zionism. He calls me a Zionist, and again, I know we're arguing here about semantics of what Hassan said, but I don't think that you
Research
could
has begun.
accurately characterize me as that, as it's used colloquially. You don't know, right? But he's saying Zionist tendencies. What does that mean? What's a
What
Zionist
is-
tendency?
I
Uh-oh.
don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
see,
you're
I can
gonna
tell
talk
he's
to
buttoning
him
up
on
his
Friday.
coat.
You
He's
can
getting
ask him
ready
what
to
a
hit him with
Zionist
something.
tendency is. I
Sure.
suppose I would guess, and like I've looked at polls too, where people have various different understandings of what
Zionist
Zionism
tendencies are like the
But I
people who
think
wear the
it
little
is,
hat.
uh,
The
My
yarmulke.
guess, and I don't know what he was thinking
That's a Zionist
specifically, but
tendency,
the
according,
notion of an
that's what he
ethno
means.
state that engages and it allows whatever in the name of Zionism allows for this mass
A
slaughter,
scheme has
I think is
succeeded.
horrific.
Sure, me too.
Okay, I mean then I think we the three of us agree on that regard.
Yeah, I think we're so. Another thing is like to take it even further. I mean, Hassan pretty much like openly
Well, let's
supports
not talk
Hamas.
about Hassan. Let's talk about this.
Sure. I mean,
Let's
what do you
just
want?
talk
What do you want to ask me?
Well, I mean, if you want to ask me about, I mean,
Well, let me.
don't
I have
any. I'm not here to explore.
Yeah,
you
I
know,
have a list of things that.
feelings of, but if you want to talk about Hamas, I mean,
Yeah.
I think look.
Well, how do you feel about Hamas?
I mean, I feel that Hamas people can perceive it as
Oh.
a liberation organization. We call them terrorists in this
We
country.
do, we
call
do
the
that.
What do you
ANC
think about
terrorists.
them,
We
Sam?
we call them terrorists, Sam.
Listen, I think there are parts, I would imagine, of Hamas that have done good for the people in Gaza.
Name
and I
some.
think they have done
Name
bad
some.
things.
Name
But
some things.
I sort of feel, I guess, ultimately probably like Ehud Barak when he said that were I Palestinian and I was living in Gaza, that it would be likely that I would join Hamas. I mean,
He
that's
said
what
that?
Ehud Barak said on multiple occasions. And I think that is very, that is
I don't know if he
an
said that.
understanding of human nature.
That
when
you're
you
not
are the
affording
subject-
Israelis, by the way, just to point out an inconsistency there.
How so?
That's
Well,
actually
you're
a good
not.
point.
You're like I refuse to understand human nature and their reaction. It's just evil, and I don't know how to explain it.
I didn't use the word evil.
Right. I'm inferring. Because I asked you if you think they're evil, and you
listen,
didn't really answer
listen,
that.
Listen,
You
I
avoided.
don't know what Gazans felt on October 8th, but toward Hamas. But
Right.
I can tell you that we have there is a long history of terrorist organizations or so-called terrorist organizations, like the
So-called
ANC
terrorists.
or the IRA,
So-called terrorists.
even the PLO.
Now, Sam, I
Has
got
ultimately become a political organization.
I think the
And
comparison
when-
to
PLO
Hamas
was
to,
a
the,
terrorist
to what happened in South
organization.
Africa is insanely disingenuous, and I personally hate when people do
I
that.
It
mean,
kinda still
Mandela
is.
didn't think so.
Well, Mandela did think so. He
I
explicitly
mean, it
stated
wasn't
that.
even until 2024 that they stopped paying people that killed Israelis. It wasn't even until last year. Actually, it was this year. It was 2025. It was when Trump forced them to do it. Thanks for voting for Trump, Rogan. Appreciate you. Not until then, the pay for slay was still in effect. Pay for slay has been in effect a decade.
That he avoided committing violence on the citizenry because it would make reunification impossible.
Right.
That's something
I
he
mean,
said.
I think you could
in
say
the
that
totality.
tactically speaking, listen,
Because he wants to live with the people that they are struggling against. See, the difference is that the people who run Gaza, they don't want to live with Israelis. They want to kick them out. That's the difference, right? So, like, of course, the ANC is concerned about civilian casualties because their intention was to coexist. The Hamas's intention is to remove Israel, to remove Israelis, to kick them out of Israel. That's the difference. It's a big one. This is why they don't really think about coexistence in the same way as other groups that may or may not have, been legitimately called terrorist groups. That's the difference between them.
In the
Tactically
by the
speaking,
way, Sam, in the
if you wanna make it-
totality of their campaign, I think under 200 civilians died, and the people who did kill civilians were almost all held accountable for what they did. That's a difference, Sam.
I don't know enough about this to like say one way or the
A
other.
significant difference.
well, it is a significant difference. I mean, I imagine many of those people who committed
I've
atrocities
sent you an
on
agent
October
working on my
7th
Secret
are
Service.
dead now.
Do show them a good time.
And so
What does that have to do with
you could-
anything?
well, that's accountability.
Atomic
But,
Okay. I mean, being held
daughter
accountable
of the
by
atom.
the party that they're
I've heard quite a
presumably
lot
doing
about
the
it.
violence on behalf.
That
Like,
was it.
But you're saying the entire ANC was held accountable?
No, I was saying
We don't need
Nelson
to be
Mandela's
enemies,
party,
you know?
if someone killed
You
a
could
civilian,
just
they would hold them
step
accountable.
aside.
They would charge them. They would disavow their actions.
Maybe you are
The
thinking that
ANC
you can
did.
defeat
Yes.
me because you
Well,
do not hear
the IRA
something.
was
I
bombing
know that
places
you
in
don't. cannot outsmart the winter.
in England and
You can
throughout
only wait
Ireland.
for
I
it
mean,
to kill.
the
Or put on a coat.
we have even the
You can put on a
the
coat.
Stern game.
You can't outsmart the
when they
winter.
killed,
Shut up, lady.
over 100 villagers in 1948. I mean, the history is full of examples of organizations that commit terrorist acts.
Well,
Now,
people
I will
say
tell you,
people look at South
personally,
Africa.
I do not condone the killing of civilians,
Mhm.
and
Me
which
neither.
is why.
I don't think anybody
Which is why,
does.
obviously,
This is like
I'm
saying
upset about what Israel is
seeing
doing.
cheese
Sure.
is
The part that
or
I don't
the
like
sky
about
is
people,
blue.
people say
Hmm.
like to. I feel
So
like people
like
sweep
sex.
for Hamas by saying like, "What do you expect?"
Everybody
right?
likes sex.
But the truth is that people use South Africa as an example. But what South Africa shows is that you don't need to commit a violent war against civilians to liberate yourself.
Well, I
Mhm.
mean, listen, we had for a year, we had the Great March of Return, where Sinwar himself was involved in that. There was Palestinians marching on a regular basis over the course of the year. I don't know how many it was, 50 or whatever, that were innocent people who went there, and snipers are
people.
shooting down
Innocent people
unarmed
were just-
civilians, and so.
We're just trying to
time
break
and time
down the
again,
fence. Just innocent
and over the
people
course
just trying
of
to
the
break
20
down the
years
fence.
that
That's
I've been
it.
professionally,
Hey, what's the
covering
return
this,
about anyway? Where are they?
um,
What are they returning to? What's the return about, Sam? What is the Great March? What is the return to, Sam? What are they doing? What were they trying to do? They were trying to break into Israel, bro. That's what they did on October 7th. They were trying to do it then. It's just they tried different tactics. That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to do it on October 7th. But they just did it differently.
my attitude towards Israel's willingness to have peace has changed, and my understanding of it has changed. And I can only imagine how more intense that feeling is to be living in a place that is, functionally like, the Warsaw Ghetto, insofar as like you don't have access to resources, you have 50% unemployment. The apartheid that is
The
taking
Warsaw
place
Ghetto.
in terms of the West Bank. I mean,
I agree with those characterizations, by the way, Sam.
I
Just to
don't.
say.
I fucking
okay,
don't.
but I can't imagine that my response
fucking don't.
wouldn't be to pick up a weapon.
Okay.
So,
I mean, I
like,
know
it's not really working out.
Well, none of it's working out, is it? I mean,
so like, what would be the threshold for you to kidnap old ladies and babies and shit? Like, what's the threshold? I mean, Sam said that he would be picking up a weapon. Like, there's plenty of reasons where I would pick up a weapon too. But like, what's the threshold for you to kidnap innocent babies and old ladies and run into people's like home and kill their children? I guess there's a threshold for you, right? Like there's no threshold for me. There's nothing that you could do that would make me do that. Like literally nothing. Literally nothing you could do. So what's the threshold?
because
Not
we have
much
the
at all. Not
greatest,
really
what
much at
is
all.
called the greatest attack on Israelis in 75 years.
I would never call it the greatest, but greatest attack on the characterization of it by Sam Seder shows like how he thinks about it. The greatest attack, not the most horrific attack, not the most violent and disgusting attack, not the attack that has killed more Jews than any attack since the Holocaust. No. The greatest, the greatest attack by Sam Seder. Sam Seder calls it the greatest attack. Wow, the greatest.
The notion of Zionism and the way that Israel is organized as a society.
Like the day that Israel went in and rescued 2 of their hostages and 300 Palestinians died. Could you imagine if anybody had said that this was the greatest attack on Gazans since October 7th or since October 9th or whatever, or October 10th or whatever was the war started? I don't remember exactly, but let's just say that the war started. This is the greatest attack on Gazans since you'd never hear it characterized that way, because of course not. They're not monsters. Sam Seder, are you?
Is not protecting Jews.
Well,
it's not protecting Israelis. It's not protecting Jews worldwide. It is. There may have been a time where Zionism had and there were certainly proponents of Zionism in the early 20th century and the late, perhaps late 19th century, where there was a notion of a multi-ethnic democracy that fell by the wayside.
Like as opposed to what
folks
they
like
have now,
Hannah
which
Arendt
is a
and
multi-ethnic
Einstein,
democracy.
Left the Zionist Congress, and what it has
Which is
evolved
opposed-
into is
which is opposed to what they
I
have
think,
now?
a nightmare for everyone involved. And so, I don't know how I would react in that type of miseration, frankly.
Well, can I ask you?
But again,
what are your-
Ehud Barak said that he would pick up a weapon were he one of them. And
That's fine.
he's
You
far
know,
closer to the conflict than I am.
I'm not saying I don't understand why people pick up weapons. Right.
Yeah, what's
So-
the limit
so
to
let me
where
ask
you
you this. What do you
kidnap
think about
children?
October 7th
Where
attack?
what's the threshold there where you
What do I
say,
think
yeah,
about
this
it?
is
Yeah.
actually a
it
good
was,
idea. Let me do
it was
that.
horrific.
And this was like a military action by Hamas for
No,
to
he
what
characterized it as the greatest attack on Israel.
I mean,
the greatest attack.
I suspect. I mean,
The
I don't.
greatest
I don't,
attack. That's what he called it.
I don't know what the
Can't call it
strategy
horrific
was.
now?
I mean, they attacked 2 military bases. I don't know if they were aware of that the dance.
The music festival.
Nova
It doesn't matter if they
Yeah, I don't
were
know if
aware
they
of
knew
it or
that that
not, but
raid
they
was
fucking
happening.
attacked it.
I
Whether or
suspect
not they
it
knew
was
about
to
it.
derail the Abraham Accords, which were going to leave the Palestinians out of the equation, where an authoritarian
You leave out that they
monarchy state.
attacked kibbutzim, by the way.
No, yes, of course they did. But
Yeah,
I'm saying
they
that
attacked kibbutzes and they attacked the
I
concert.
don't know what the strategy.
And they attacked
was
like
on that.
gas
so what do you think? Like,
stations,
would you expect the response of
houses,
Israel would be to
anything that they went,
I had
everything
no,
and everyone
doubt,
in their way.
on that day that Israel was going to respond.
go
I
insane?
mean,
Yeah, right. It was going to be horrific. We all knew.
yes, but I think
Wow, they
I
sent
think
soldiers and super agents at the same time. That's
the
not at all
lack
unfair.
of proportionality was
Shit, why is
just
there 6
beyond,
guys?
frankly, and I was aware that this was going to be a horror show, but I don't think I had the level of awareness of what they would do to go in and literally level it, destroy what is it, 80-90% of the structures in Palestine, bomb hospitals, that they would use.
Well, Hamas did know that because that's why they attacked.
Food as a weapon.
I'm more
I
interested
think-
in like
I think-
the justification
I think
for
Hamas
what they're doing
probably
there.
took hostages with the idea that they would be able to negotiate.
I understand why they took hostages. I don't understand why they took children and elderly.
I believe that they probably. I mean, this is all conjecture on my part. That they would be able to trade them as a way to inhibit Israel's doing what they're doing.
Why did
I don't
they
know
do
if
that
They couldn't have
then?
even imagined that. I'm not going to.
Why didn't they do that? Why didn't they do that? Can I get that question? Like, why didn't they do that instead of doing that? You know what they've negotiated them for? For terrorists. They used the hostages to get back terrorists, people who were in prison for acts of terrorism. Why wouldn't they use it to stop the slaughter of Gazans? No, of course not. They didn't use them for that. They didn't use them for that at all. They were like, no, keep on slaughtering Gazans until we get these people out of prisons that are terrorists. We're gonna keep on going. No, we don't really care about these poor people that are getting, bombed. We don't care. No, they don't care. This is such a mischaracterization, and it's
Of course,
unfortunate.
Hamas's strategy here.
Well, I'm just trying to flesh it out here because this is what I'm getting to is Hamas. I think they knew that this was the reaction that would happen. You know?
I can't imagine that they assumed that there would be this level of destruction.
I mean, that's why they hate Israel. I don't think they
It would have been
underestimate how
Wait.
violent Israel is.
Yeah, like they, what is it? They didn't think that Israel would just keep attacking them and they didn't give up the hostages. This is, what are you doing?
the IDF can be. You know what I mean? That's why they
I
attacked.
certainly underestimated that they would go this far. Use
I didn't think they'd go this far, but
bomb hospitals and shoot EMTs and
scheme has
have
Wow.
rules of engagement like this. I mean, and I think Hamas is certainly
There's a
up
certain
to,
amount of naivete,
criticism for their
and you could tell that there was
strategy here. If
that's an
misunderstanding
understatement.
from people like what's his face here, that just they don't know. Maybe I'm gonna guess it's that. I'm gonna guess it's just they just don't know. I'm gonna show you guys something real quick. Get off that. I'm gonna show you guys something. Does like it's not like they shoot EMTs? Is that what they do? I mean, a lot of people don't know that this is like part of Hamas's strategy. I guess they don't know that, and that they have people that they smuggle people in terrorists, not people who were wounded or whatever, but terrorists in these ambulances, and they have ambulances that are specifically set up to do that. They have people that are on the payroll that are let me go over here. Oh, I'm doing this on the wrong channel, but whatever. This is not my politics channel. So now that I realize it, I'm not going to switch this one. Alright, let me go over here. Let me show you guys the video that I'm referring to. Oh, this didn't get published ever? Oh, that's interesting.
When did you join Hamas? 2010?
So I translated this so you guys can hear it. If you're watching, right? Or if you're listening rather than watching. So I already went through. So you're gonna hear my voice. 'Cause I'm the one translating. I don't know if it's gonna let me watch it on the other one since it's not my. It's not published, so I'll just publish it. Fuck it. Director interrogation. No, it's not made for kids. Okay. Let's go publish. Go ahead and copy that video link. Put it in that window.
When did you join Hamas? 2010? When was the last time you did military training? 2010. What is your rank in Hamas? Rank parallel to Brigadier General. Describe how Hamas uses your hospitals to hide military activities. Those who were hidden officially, which were coordinated, that I know about, they are the senior political officials. They are the seniors, the military and civilian officials. They had rooms which they hid in. They stayed there 10 days, and then they changed places to a different place, and then they left the hospital. Why did they hide in the hospital? Because for them, the hospital is a safe place. They won't be targeted when they're inside the hospital. How many arrived? There was a time inside the hospital, there were 10, close to 100. Does your hospital have medical personnel, which are part of Azzedine Al-Qassam? Yes. 16 people. I mentioned all of their names and what position each has, whether within the hospital or outside the hospital. Are they military activists? Yes. Who are they? What's their role in the hospital? The position is doctor or nurse or paramedic or clerk, meaning official positions, but they also have different positions in Al-Qassam. And also in the brigade, Jerusalem, of the Islamic Jihad. There's some of them in the brigade. Meaning, can you say that your hospital turned into a military post? Under the control of Hamas, yes. Does Hamas have private offices inside the hospital? Yes. Meaning, there are offices where the Hamas leaders and 2 of the senior officials were. I mentioned their names, Maji Abu Amasha and Mushir al-Masri. There's a place where the kidnapped soldier was in. There's a place for the governor on behalf of the police. There's a place for the interrogators. There's a place for the internal security, and a place for special security.
Interrogators. Internal
They all have
security.
private lines, telephone lines in those places.
A scheme has succeeded.
So basically, a lot of their operation is just turned on Palestinians.
Does Hamas use private ambulances? Private ambulances, yes. They have a private ambulance. Even its color and the way it's painted are different, and it doesn't have a license plate. Why do they use it? They used it to transport the kidnapped soldiers and transport bodies, and they used it for other purposes as well that I don't know about. But I saw it come and go without taking anyone injured. It didn't assist us with transporting the injured. When there were many, many injured people and families, I begged him to take someone to the Indonesian hospital, take it to Shifa Hospital, but he would refuse. Why? His mission was more important. What's his mission? His mission is to carry out the orders of his headquarters, Al-Qassam. Why do they use the ambulance? For purposes that are not transporting the injured. What do you think of Hamas's leaders? I told you that they are cowards. They are cowards because they left us in the field while they are hiding in secret places. The people of Gaza.
Your scientists have discovered something.
And what's the solution? They have destroyed us. Destroyed, unfortunately.
Okay. Like it's not. It's not even like ambiguous, right? Like these people are they use hospitals, they use civilian infrastructure. The 6 Israeli hostages that were killed by Hamas because they were supposed to be Yahya Sinwar's like personal hostages. They were killed, and as he was trying to escape, he was killed. But those hostages were kept under a children's bedroom, a children's play area, in a tunnel below a children's play area. It's really sad for those people, like that they have a government that just has such little regard for them. And if you listen to that clip, a lot of the machinations of Hamas refused. A lot of their focus is internal security, interrogations. Who are they interrogating? They're interrogating Gazans in the hospital. They're interrogating Gazans who they think are collaborators. That's who they're interrogating.
Well, I mean, if that's the
And
Well, I mean,
doing
they're a
interrogations
terrorist organization.
in the hospital.
probably
that intentionally
presumed-
antagonized like the IDF to come mass slaughter their civilians.
I think that
And like I used to watch,
they overestimated
or I
whether
haven't been
Israel
watching
cared
them
about
recently, but I watched Electronic Intifada for a while, and I used to watch like their coverage of of you know the Hamas fighters, and they would show videos of them outside the hospital targeting targeting Israelis from outside, from that, from inside the hospital complex. I don't know if they were inside the hospital specifically themselves, but probably. It seems like they were inside the hospital where there were people, in some cases. And so, like, it's not even ambiguous that they use those structures to launch attacks, right? It's not. It's not
the
ambiguous.
hostages without a doubt. I mean, I don't know that there would be anybody who would make a case that this is what was their plan have Israel respond in this way. That's absurd.
Well, and the same is true of, like, I guess Israelis feel the same way. Like, it was totally unprecedented. You know what
No,
happened?
they didn't think they would succeed.
So maybe they didn't
And
think
so that was the
that
real
their mission
problem.
would be a success.
They didn't think their mission would be as successful as it was. That's the real problem, right? Is that they wanted to do an attack. They just didn't think they would be able to kill so many Israelis. They didn't think they would be able to kidnap 250 people that easily. They figured there would have been more people stopped. And the reaction is obviously gonna be next level, because this is the most horrific attack, not the greatest attack, Sam Seder, not the greatest attack, the most horrific attack on Israelis since ever. I mean, there's probably some time in the early 1900s when there was like similar attack numbers, but I don't think they've ever killed like 1,000 people and 1,200 people and kidnapped 250. That used to never happen. Like back in the days, they wouldn't be kidnapping a bunch of people and holding them hostage. That didn't happen at least not in Israel proper. That didn't happen until the success of Gilad Shalit. They were definitely. It's not to say that terrorists haven't tried to kidnap Israelis, like in the Munich Olympics and whatnot. That's not really what I mean. But whatever. I'm going too far on this. Let me just continue.
Successful as it was, on the other hand.
Oh, I have no doubt that they did not think that they would that they would have been able to overrun that. I mean, I think we were told that the technology of Israel's fence, et cetera, was perfect and something we should emulate in this country. I mean, Trump was all talking about that. So I have no doubt that Hamas underestimated.
Overestimated. Or overestimated the IDF. Yeah, I got you.
What they would be able to,
What
what
they'd be
kind of
able to pull off.
destruction they would wreak, and they underestimated the violence that Israel would perpetrate on Gaza. I don't know that anyone could have imagined that Israel would have engaged in this level of destruction and immiseration and bombing churches and bombing hospitals and blowing up universities and destroying the infrastructure. I mean,
it's not like they were hiding in there or anything.
It's almost
It's not like there's video of
belief.
that.
So one thing that when I was talking to Hassan, and I'm just going to talk about his point. This is about him personally. When I asked him, because this is obviously the $1 million question, right? By the way, just there's not one public bomb shelter in Gaza.
He's not going to understand why that's important. Don't bother with this one. He's not going to understand why that's important.
Okay.
He's not.
I just think that's
He
interesting.
doesn't know why that's important. That's crazy, bro. Holy shit. How do you? Okay, so for those of you who are also like Sam Seder and don't understand why that's a big deal, it's because Hamas has like thousands of miles of tunnels, so it's the same technology that built the bomb shelter. You know, they have. Okay, you want to say hundreds of miles? Okay, let's say hundreds of miles of tunnels. It's the same technology that builds bomb shelters. It's the same technology.
Dub, don't you think?
Israel, on the other hand, which doesn't get shelled with, 2,000-pound bombs, by the way. They get shelled with rockets that are nowhere near 2,000 pounds, let's say that. They have bomb shelters everywhere. Everywhere. I'm sure they have tunnel systems too and underground facilities for, VIPs and shit like that. I'm sure they have that. But they also have bomb shelters. They also have bomb shelters everywhere.
Do I think
Like,
it's
I don't think
fucked up?
you're 5 minutes away from a bomb shelter in most parts of Tel Aviv. From what I heard, I don't know for sure, but maybe that's wrong. I don't know.
Oh.
But Israel definitely has. There's no context where everyone say that there's no bomb shelters in Israel, because every time there's sirens, everyone that I know who's Israeli knows where there's a bomb shelter nearby. So I assume that they're everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I understand the point. Like,
Well, I mean,
do you think anything would be standing anymore?
Well, bomb shelters are underground. I mean, they would definitely be a lot safer.
I've seen what happened to tunnels under hospitals.
Your statement is
Yeah, they didn't get bombed. That's not, the tunnels were intact, the ones under hospitals. So what are you saying?
Oh, there was. So you say there were tunnels under hospitals?
Israel built the ones under the first one that they went into. They built it when they were occupying Gaza.
Are you and right? That's true of that one. But I mean, they have a vast.
The one under El Shifa? Absolutely. That's absolutely true. But like, he's trying to mischaracterize it as if Hamas didn't build their own tunnels. And it's not just Hamas, by the way. Like, it's not just Hamas tunnels. The smuggling business was really big in Gaza before Hamas took over. Like, it was huge. In fact, like, a lot of the tunnels were built before they took over. A lot of tunnels were built for smuggling. Like, they were smuggling essential goods and non-essential goods. They were smuggling things that wouldn't be allowed in by Israel, illegal things, and things that maybe should be allowed, right? But they were smuggling. Like, that's what they were doing, So Hamas, what they did when they took over was they knocked down the wall that separated the Gaza city of Egypt with the Gazan city of Palestine, or Palestinians, right? So arguably it's the same city. Well, regardless, let's not even get into that semantic bullshit, right? Like, so they took down that wall. It was like in 2006, I think. It was like one of the first things they did was knock down that wall, and I remember watching a documentary, and little kids were like, "What the hell are we gonna do for work now?" And the kid was like, "Yeah, well, don't worry about it. Like, today it's open. Tomorrow it'll be closed again, and we'll be back to work." And that's what happened too. Like, they eventually, I mean, Egypt straight up destroyed the Gaza side of the Egyptian side of Gaza. Like, that city doesn't even exist anymore. Like, they straight up bombed the shit out of it. Like, they absolutely, like, just destroyed the entire thing, right? they absolutely, like, fucked everybody up in there, and there was never any talk about genocide or whatever from any of these people, because it was Egypt. Taking out, people in Egypt, right? Just like you're not really going to hear very much about, genocide against the Alawites, because, a lot of people who were standing for them thought they were Christians, and then they were found out that they weren't. They were like, well, I don't know. But they weren't. They're Muslims, right? And, like, that's still a genocide. That's still genocide. It's just carried out by other Muslims.
tunnel network, obviously, as everybody knows. But I don't care. I don't want to get into the weeds on this. The $1 million question is like, what can we do? Now it's obviously insanely difficult
as
to say.
Americans, I think we can stop aid immediately. I mean, obviously, it's not going to happen under.
I'm in
Trump.
favor of that, by the way.
Okay, I mean, good.
I mean, I just
I think we should call for all aid to be ceased, and I think we should stop protecting them in the
What
UN.
should have Israel done on October 8th, I guess? Like, what would have been an appropriate response for their
Okay,
government?
now we're talking. Now we're talking.
Without saying not this.
What should they have
That's
done
it. That was his answer,
on
bro.
October 8th? I mean, I think that
that was his whole
I think
answer.
that there is
His
they're
whole answer was going to be
hitting
not this.
strategic sites to attempt to take out leadership. They should have, but let's not, you know,
That are
like,
hiding
the
in
leadership
tunnels?
was underground.
That
yeah,
are hiding in
to
tunnels.
look at that, to look at that moment in history, like maybe it was.
I disagree because they had to do something.
Listen, maybe in that moment, they had to go in and bomb or whatever they do. I think that any action that they would have taken at that point, frankly, was a function of literally decades of oppressing people and attempting to bring this to an eventuality.
Right.
I mean, this was.
And so, what should they have done?
Ages ago. Well, I mean,
You're avoiding. Yeah.
Okay, I think what they should have done is begun empowering Palestinians in the West Bank. They should have done.
This is my
same,
favorite answer,
okay.
Sam. You're saying that this is what Hassan told me. They should disband their government and lift the borders in response to the worst terrorist attack that's ever happened.
I think honestly, when you
What a good idea, huh, Sam?
when you see
What a
that
good
your policies have failed, but I don't think
You
it's
actually
their
don't believe
agenda.
that that's a real thing, though. I'm interested in having like a real conversation. You can't like live in a fairy tale land where, in response to the worst military or terrorist attack of all time, Israel, who's already, as you state, like genocidal and racist and all these terrible things, is going to lift
I
their
don't know if I
borders
characterize it that way,
and
but
disband their
Well,
government.
wait a second. You're asking me what they should have done, and that's different.
No, in a
from what I
realistic way, not
expect
in a
them to
fairy
do.
tale, Sam.
Well, listen, there is no realistic thing. Their agenda has been.
What?
It has been quite clear. Their agenda has been since Ariel Sharon walked on the Temple Mount and tried to scuttle peace talks. The agenda since the assassination of Rabin by arch-Zionists in Israel. The agenda has been to bring about this moment. There is no doubt about it. The annihilation of the Palestinian people has been an agenda in Israel for far too long. So from the perspective, anything I say is fantastic relative to what they would actually do. Anything.
There's nothing they could have done that because of the situation, anything they would have done would have been.
There was no plan that on this day they were going to do this. But if you go back 10 or 15 years ago and look into Bibi Netanyahu's brain, the idea that this is ultimately going to happen was definitely the agenda.
What,
so
in terms of like
Palestinians up
Gaza or
to,
inciting
to basically attack Israel so they could take it.
Both,
nice,
frankly.
wow.
But to find a way
that shit
to
is like
eliminate the Palestinians,
70 tests on an infinite timeline.
Of at one time what I think was a smaller segment of the Israeli.
They must have had some really good Jewish fortune tellers like
politic, and I think has
coming up
increasingly
saying,
become an even
he's
larger
gonna do an October 7th.
portion of the
Netanyahu,
Israeli
you got
politic.
this.
So I mean, anything I say in terms of should is fantastical. Anything.
So yeah, okay. I mean, so this is like I understand where you're coming from, right? Like
there was an opportunity for a ceasefire that was called in November, in December. They could have held a ceasefire at any point, and the amount of killing would have been far less. They could have done that. They could have ended it after a week.
I mean, Hamas could have ended the war anytime too.
How could have Hamas ended the war?
By releasing the hostages.
By releasing the hostages.
Listen, Israel has said time and time again that the release of the hostages is not going to end their assault on Gaza. They have said this over
I don't believe
and
that's
over.
They haven't released the
I haven't seen those
hostages though.
statements. I've seen the opposite.
Why not release the hostages anyway?
Really, you really haven't seen those statements?
So that
No, I haven't.
I didn't have to feel
I'll
like an
review
idiot,
them.
like
I mean,
speaking to people
when,
and trying to hope that
it
they
depends
get,
when they
you
were
know.
made too, right? Like, is
They
it
could have
what's it in response to?
any time. At any time, they
so
could have
that
done
these
that.
people
what
could
has
have
Hamas
like some
done to end the
decency.
war?
Hamas
you
offered
know.
What
the
have they done to end
hostages
the war?
early dawn to say Hamas offered all the hostages in agreement for in response to Israel not coming into Gaza. I mean, there's just to
That's not
defend
true.
Israel's actions.
That didn't happen
that's
either.
being inevitable. Like, when do you think they should have ended it? When do you think they should have ended it?
Oh
So
no,
when-
that's stop. See, this is no. You should not bite. Do not bite this. Do not bite this. Have him answer the question that you asked, which is how should they have responded? Like, in his ideal world, how should they have responded? And lifting the borders and say, oh yeah, Gazans, you're right, like for killing 1,000 of us and kidnapping us. Here, just take the keys to Israel. We'll do whatever you want now, okay? Here you go. That's not fucking real, bro. Like, that's crazy talk. Like, have him say what they should have done, which is to say, yeah, actually what they did, more or less. Not exactly, because I don't think anybody's agreed with this, and I didn't agree with the war, for the most part. I still don't. I just think that, it would be way easier to defend if they had released the hostages. It would be way easier to take the position of they should end the war right now than, they should end the war and keep 500 or the 250 people or the 100 and whatever people that were left in captivity as hostages for a future date and for other negotiations. I'm sorry, they should have just stopped the war. They should have just said, okay, here's your people that we stole. Take them back. All right. Do you want us to leave Gaza? Damn, these poor people deserve to have some kind of peace. These poor people that have been suffering through this war for almost 2 years now, they should have some peace. They should have some, respite from all of this violence. And, it should stop. And we're going to meet whatever conditions we need to meet in order for that to happen. But that's not what they're doing. They're saying, no, we're going to stay strong. And what we want is you to release the terrorists that you captured. That's what they want. That's what they want.
Should who have ended what?
You've asked me the question, what should have Israel done? You
Yeah.
tell me what they should have done. Do you think what they've done is right?
Well, I've clearly stated no, Sam.
Okay, so tell me what they should have done.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, hindsight is a beautiful thing, but in my opinion, like you said, I think some more specific strikes. I think more moving slowly, because as you kind of pointed out but didn't really acknowledge,
When
is
do you
that
think they should have ended?
Do you want me to answer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So the leadership is obviously
base?
underground. So it's
base?
going to be a long mission of trying to get them. It's going to be a difficult mission. But I think militarily they probably have some obligation to their citizenry at the very least to like take out but we're ignoring the fact that missiles are being shot into Israel nonstop. And I know you're going to say, Iron Dome stops most of them, which is true. But at the same time, I mean, a country needs to respond to that. They can't just allow missiles to be shot in.
Tell me the non-fantastical version of what they should have done. Should have been 2 weeks, 3 weeks? How many Hamas leaders, how many members of Hamas should they have killed before they leave? Because we know that Blinken said on his way out that virtually every Hamas member of Hamas that they've killed has probably been replaced by someone who's lost a family member or an entire family or whatnot. So you tell me, Ethan, if you're the one with the sensical perspective on this, and mine is fantastical, what should they have done that would have been appropriate in your mind?
Yeah. So besides like special operations and stuff, I think it would have been a good idea to, I think there's a space where they could like try to find peace partners in Gaza before just destroying the whole thing. Like obviously they approached it completely wrong, right? But there are ways I think that could have happened that are realistic, like trying to forge some kind of peace partner, some kind of alliance, some kind of international coalition.
All those people were marching. They were marching. They were marching in the Great March of Return, week after week after week.
Sam, was there Hamas activity at the Great March?
Sinwar was marching. Sinwar was marching with them.
Were people attacking the border wall?
during the Great March of Return, the first dozens of these things before the snipers.
What were they
No, they
returning
weren't.
to? Wait,
So
what were they returning to?
there were the people for peace.
What was the Great March of
There
Return?
was-
Where were they going? Where were they returning? That's what it's called, right? Yeah, that's because they were trying to break down a fence, man. They were using all kinds of tactics to break down the fences. They were gonna do it on October 7th. We already covered this. They wanted to do it on October 7th. They just wanted to do it out in the open. They did it a little differently.
They were attacking the fence. They were like trying to cross the border.
They were
but not
attacking the
militants. Militants were trying to cross the border.
You're telling me that in the first dozen of these marches, there were people attacking the fence?
Correct.
Okay.
That's it.
But I mean, again,
That's it. Okay. Well, that's easy.
I think that there's a way for Israel to try. I think they can obviously pursue peace. The way that they're doing it is impossible, right? Like, it's fucked up. It's insane. It's genocidal. It's horrific.
They're not pursuing peace.
I'm not saying.
They're not
I'm saying the
pursuing peace.
opposite,
I don't
Sam.
think Israel is.
Well, you
What are
asked
they
me
doing?
what should they have done. I mean, obviously
Yes.
they're not. They're not pursuing peace. I agree with you. Like, quite the opposite. That's not what they're doing. But I'm saying there could have been a path, although it's not. It's. I think, unfortunately, I think their response was inevitable based on everything that happened.
Wait, decreases
You think
the
it was
number of
inevitable
tourists?
that they would kill these many people and they would use food supplies as a weapon, that they would have leveled hospitals and universities and 80, 90%
Wait, why
of
would
the
I want to do
homes?
this?
I mean, how
I don't know to what extent,
what?
but like a huge response was definitely inevitable. I'm not
What?
justifying it, Sam. You asked me a question. I'm answering it. You're
No,
putting
but
this on me like I'm saying.
inevitability- No, I'm just saying inevitability. I wonder what you must think of an
scheme
Israeli
has
body
succeeded.
politic where this level of atrocity is inevitable.
What?
Well, you described your and Hamas's understanding of the IDF.
Task
I wouldn't say
complete.
that. I can't say to what extent, but you agree that a huge response was inevitable.
I listen. I believe a response that was inevitable by Israel, and that is because I have a much more theoretically jaded view of that country and their agenda, I think, than you. But to expect that what they've done is inevitable.
To
you
what?
can't
Well, Sam,
think.
I'm
I mean,
saying.
I just wonder, what it is that you think is in that body politics.
scheme has
Listen,
succeeded.
I don't think it's inevitable, just to use an example in this country. I don't think that it's inevitable that we are going to be deporting
be a lot of
and
values. There's a lot of
disappearing,
soldiers on this one.
immigrants in this country. I think it's possible, but my perspective on America is still too optimistic to think that's inevitable. I can't even imagine what I would think would be inevitable.
Agent
and I think,
Steve is
listen,
here. Hunts them
our
down
invasion
and
of Iraq and
eliminates
the
them.
complete lack of caring and the only thing that would even mitigate that is that, there were no images coming out of Iraq, or very few, and certainly I was exposing them more than the American population writ large. But to perceive what we did in Iraq as inevitable.
It's a different situation. That's completely, yeah. I mean, that was completely unpredictable. But we
That
kind of
minion
touched on it.
must
Where
be
and again, to what end this even matters is it doesn't ultimately. But Hamas knew that they were going to bomb the fuck out of Gaza.
Listen, I would imagine Hamas thought there was going to be a response, but they wouldn't have taken hostages if they thought that they couldn't use those hostages
Of course
as a
they
way
thought they
of
could. I don't deny
deterring,
that. Yeah.
of deterring Israel from entering, and that was
Yeah,
a
but they didn't use
miscalculation
them
on their
that way.
part. They
They
presumed
didn't use
that
them that
Israel.
way. What they used them for was to get terrorists out of prison. That's what they did. That's what they did. They used them to get terrorists out of prison. So the bodies of all of these poor innocent souls, the ones that are innocent, the ones that were not fighters, they died because of a war that Hamas started, not that where they intended for those people to die. They intended for those people that for this war to happen. Maybe you could say that they did not expect to be so successful as they were, but they intended for this to happen, and their reaction isn't to say, okay, look, here's the people back that we stole. Let's stop shooting each other. Let's stop bombing each other. Stop bombing these poor innocent people that didn't do anything. All right, sorry. No. That's not how it happened. You know, they said, actually, yeah, you know what? Keep bombing these people. This is what we want, and if you don't give us what we want, we don't care what you do. That's how they've been conducting their business. They don't care about those poor people.
Was more interested in those hostages, I think, than they had assumed.
Well, and that's part of what a lot of the civil unrest in Israel is about, is that a lot of people do care about the hostages and think that the government needs to stop the war and focus on getting the hostages back and not killing innocent civilians. So that
I wonder about that last part. But
which part?
What do you need?
The part about the killing of innocent civilians. I mean, you know, I think that
I said that's what they're doing.
Compliance.
No. I'm saying I wonder if the Israeli body politic.
Oh, you think the Israelis want civilians to die?
I think the Israelis. I mean, obviously not all Israelis, but I think that enough of Israelis to maintain this government believe that Palestinians in Gaza, that their lives have no value, that they are all future enemies, that they that they all represent a threat to Israel. And I think that's a twisted perspective.
Just so you know, there were massive demonstrations in Israel, tens of thousands of people in a country that's relatively small. So I think characterizing like the majority of the public as wanting to kill civilians is a little sick, personally. It gets you say what you want.
I'm basing this
I know you
on
can
conversations with Israeli reporters that there does not seem to be in Israel a majority, at the very least, of people who are concerned about the fate of the Palestinians in Gaza. Certainly they want hostages, and again, not all Israelis, but, you know, look, I can make analogous assessments of the United States at various times about things that poorly on our national body politic as well. But, the proof is in the pudding.
Can I tell you something? 300,000 protesters in Tel Aviv, 200,000 in the rest of the country. That's 500,000 people out in the street protesting the government of a country that has like 6 million or 5 million in the.
Are you talking about the protests about the judiciary?
I'm talking about to release the hostages.
Okay, to release the hostages.
Yeah. To stop, to ceasefire. Ceasefire, Sam. That's what that means.
They were
500,000.
They sent Atomic Olga, John Steele,
or they were calling for
and
release of the
soldiers.
hostages.
Well, what's the point of telling Hamas to release the hostages? Yeah, of course it's a ceasefire, Sam.
Well, but Israel has, and I know, I'll look this up.
Deal with this.
I don't have much
500,000
time.
Israel.
Wait. Let's look this up and see how many times the Israeli government has said return of the hostages will not end.
Sam, I'm responding to you saying the majority of Israelis want civilians to die. 500,000 people came to the street for a ceasefire of a country of 5 million, Sam. That's 10%.
Israel just broke the latest ceasefire. Okay?
What?
Where is
how is that breaking a ceasefire when that shit ends?
From the Israeli people? I mean, the idea
They didn't
that
continue.
Gazans can be held responsible for an election that happened 18 years ago.
Sam, you
when
said the
half
majority of
population is
Israelis
under the-
want civilians to die.
I think the majority of Israelis do not have a problem with what's going on in Gaza. That is my
That is
I think
dehumanizing
that
as fuck.
I think that unfortunately might be true to the extent that
Oh my
they've
God.
gotten
Well, then we agree.
They've gotten much more radical. Unfortunately,
Radical?
tragically, everybody's been a lot more radicalized since October 7th, and that's tragic. I agree. I think people in Israel are jaded and they are cynical and they don't care, like you said, and I
It
think
looks
it's
like
tragic.
that's the case, bro. 'cause
Yes, well,
there's
that's
like
my
100 of them
contention.
dead in
I
here.
mean, I'm looking at something from May.
I wouldn't say most of them want to kill civilians.
Well, I think that they don't.
And I wouldn't say that there isn't a sizable portion of the of Israeli citizenry that want a ceasefire. When 500,000 people, Sam, marched out on the street of a country of 5 million for a ceasefire.
This Pew research, 39% say Israel's military response against Hamas and Gaza has been about right. 34% say not gone far enough. Now, granted, that was in May of this past year, so maybe that's changed. I would hope. But you know, that's all the
Yeah, it's horrible.
data.
Yeah, no, I know that the sentiment there.
40% last year said that Israelis should govern the Gaza Strip.
I know that
I don't
people.
know what's left.
Yeah, I agree. It's tragic what's happened because I agree with you that they've become jaded and they've become very comfortable with the idea of violence happening there in general, right? And I think it sucks is an understatement. I think it's tragic and like it just I don't know what. Truthfully, the situation is so fucked up that and like it just feels hopeless sometimes, but.
It certainly does. But in the meantime, you know,
Jesus Christ.
in this country, we may not have the opportunity for a while, but we should cease.
Yeah, I don't have the kind of research that I guess that I need for.
We should stop protesting the we should stop trying to pressure the ICJ and the ICC, and that's, you know.
Well, incidentally, I agree with all those things too. I think that that's the most we can do as a country to try to stop the war, and it's something that we should be doing, you know. And I think Kamala Harris would have been a lot more likely to do something on that front, but you know.
Too late.
We won't know.
We can't know, and that's the great
Yeah,
thing.
we can. That,
Well, listen, I
Come
appreciate
on.
the time.
I
I
mean,
gotta
what's
go
it
because
done?
I'm
Absolutely.
supposed to have dinner for my child. But,
Well, I'll say this. This was way more combative than I expected. Ultimately, though, I don't think that we... what do we disagree on? I mean, I don't know. I don't even know. Maybe I see too much good in the Israeli population. I mean, I don't know what's ultimately the
You
disagreement.
can come with us.
Babe?
Well, I mean, look,
babe?
I'm not. It's largely, in my mind, you know, impossible to really fully assess. I mean, yes, there was a protest last year, 500,000 people who wanted the hostages back. In the
Ceasefire.
I don't know if
No,
there's
they
been-
wanted a ceasefire.
Well, they wanted the hostages back. You know, I don't know.
It's not a.
how-
It's
how
not a
we can-
magic wand.
so
It's a
tough.
ceasefire.
Yeah, and they got a ceasefire, and then the Israeli government broke it, and they.
Well, so hold on.
I don't
Our
see people
disagreements
pouring
is that
into the street.
I'm too optimistic about the Israeli
Listen,
citizenry.
I'm not here to adjudicate what.
I'm just trying to summarize our conversation. That's all.
Well, I mean, you summarize for you. I'll summarize for me. I think that, like, you know, it is what it is. And you know, you know,
Yes.
I think.
They just say yes, Sam.
I don't, you know, remember this conversation. We can put into AI and have it summarize it, but I, you know.
I'll do that for you, and I'll let you know what it says.
All right,
Yeah,
thank you. I
we'll leave it to
appreciate
the
that.
robots.
Okay.
Sam, I do appreciate you calling in. I do value your input on all this, and I appreciate the conversation. I think it's good to have, you know, conversations like this, like open and honest, even if they're combative.
break.
And I think ultimately on the larger points we agree, but we managed to find things to fight about anyway. And that's what two Jews do, isn't it, Sam?
That happens. That's my understanding. Appreciate it. All right, take it easy.
Have a great time with your children at dinner there. Enjoy.
Thanks.
Bye. That was way different than I thought it was going to be.
Oh!
But
The henchman has recovered.
I thought it was interesting. I enjoyed that as a watcher.
Was I owned?
I don't think you were owned. I don't think anybody was owned. I think it was two people that are highly opinionated hashing it out. I think I personally like when people do that.
Yeah.
I don't get turned off by the
Right.
Maybe it's that's
People
the
get
half
on this
Jewish
issue.
part of me.
But the truthfully is like, again, on the larger points we agree. That's why I take cross with this issue of being like, he's a genocide supporter, he's a fucking baby killer, and all this insane. He goes, Sam, you never heard of hyperbole? Yeah, I've heard of hyperbole. It's fucking
Main
You're the
objective
king of hyperbole.
complete.
yeah. So I mean, like, is my downfall that I have too much faith or I have too much optimism in the Israeli citizenry? Maybe. I guess that's where we differ. That seemed to be where we are differing the most. I don't know.
I think you're right to identify that as and I mean, Sam is older and he's in his 50s or something, and so maybe he's just more jaded.
Yeah, he definitely is more jaded. There's no question about that, and rightfully so, right? Rightfully so.
I don't know about rightfully, but
yeah,
I'm definitely
I enjoyed
entitled
watching
to feel
I
what
will
we
say,
feel.
as a Jewish person,
An
the
agent has been
contentious,
captured.
pointed
Definitely
argument
entitled
of
to
the
feel
clip
how
of
you
Hassan,
feel, regardless of whether it's
it
justified.
kind of shocked me. To be honest.
I was a little,
We have captured an
to be
agent.
honest, and as much as I love Sam, he was being very obtuse, in my opinion, when trying to talk about that clip to avoid criticizing Hassan, which is fine. I understand he doesn't want to get into that game, right, of being on record, being like, oh yeah, Hassan shouldn't have said that or whatever, right? But ultimately, obviously, I greatly disagree with him, and I think it's kind of... It's funny how he talks about how dangerous it is for me to call out anti-Semitism, or how ridiculous it is for me to weaponize it like that. It's like when at the same time...
It's a weird thing because you don't really want to I understand the impulse to just want to have a conversation with Sam and keep it with the here and now of your beliefs and everything, but the degree to which the harassment that you and Hila have experienced over the last couple years, it is part of the story, and
yeah, it's true.
I don't know, it's tricky because
hard to convey
I get the impulse to not want to get into it, but that is a component of all of this.
Well, and unfortunately, whatever Sam's been peppered with before the debate, I've seen, is his co-hosts telling him that I'm obsessed with Hassan, that I'm having a mental health break, that I'm a genocidal maniac, all this kinds of stuff. So that's kind of, without having any of the backstory, that's the flavor he's coming in with. But ultimately, I find... I don't want to speak ill of Sam, right? I appreciate him coming and having an honest conversation with me. I was also disappointed by his response to that specific line of questioning, Zach. I share that with you. And I think the way that he was hand-waving away anti-Semitism as it doesn't matter that people are discriminating against Jewish people in America because of what's happening in Gaza. And it's first of all, two different issues, kind of. Whatever's happening in Gaza is one thing, and whatever rise into anti-Semitism we're seeing in America is a whole different fucking thing with its own set of problems. And believe it or not, they're both bad. To the same extent,
can be bad.
Obviously not, right?
They both
Obviously,
can be
one has an
bad.
immediate horrible effect in
Why
Gaza
can't they
right
both be
now.
bad?
And the threat of anti-Semitism is an amorphous, nebulous thing that's hard to measure and hard to say. And Jews, our whole life in America, people call it the golden age of Judaism, is this time, the past 50, 60, 70 years in America for Jewish people. We
The golden age. This is the golden age for the Jews.
It's hard to tell, right? You go, oh, what is anti-Semitism? What isn't? And you know, when you're allies with people that, in my opinion, are spreading dangerous ideas like Hassan is. I think Sam, who grew up in a, you know, I think he sees too much good in Hassan, and I see too much good in the Israeli population. And hey, who's to say who's right? I'm right.
A new criminal network has been
Like,
established.
Oh, there he is.
in response to what Zach was saying, like when I first saw that clip, I didn't see it that way, but you know, I'm not Jewish, so I found it interesting that you guys are having this conversation to give both perspectives. One thing I kind of wish is that you guys both could define what Zionism is, like what you, because I feel like that's a big point in all of this.
I agree, and it's such a stupid word. Because it has such a broad meaning, and like when Hassan says Zionist tendencies, that's why I think it's important to ask Sam, who I think is avoiding the question, frankly, because he knows that it looks bad. He doesn't want to answer it, so he responds by saying like, "Oh, you think this matters? Let's not talk about the specifics of what Zionist tendency is, because clearly Hassan's not anti-Semitic. Obviously, he doesn't have the context. And by the way, I'm still willing to give Hassan." The benefit of the doubt that he's not anti-Semitic, right?
Good
but
job!
once again,
Yay!
I'm willing to. But
I'm willing to say that.
what I've said previously is that he's very comfortable fostering a community that is blatantly hateful and anti-Semitic. He's comfortable. You know,
his whole community?
expressing these ideas irresponsibly the way he communicates, which is what that clip displays, I think. So while I don't think he's anti-Semitic, I think he's responsible for perpetuating a lot of it. And I think Sam's refusal to answer questions like what does Zionist tendency means was, you know, a way of him avoiding answering a difficult question that would impugn Hassan. Because, frankly, there's really nothing positive to say about what he did. And so Sam took I guess, if you want to talk about debate, and Sam's a great debater, right? Everybody knows that.
Yeah, because we got you to answer the questions that were for
he
him.
doesn't really get
to like
the best stuff.
misdirect
Nobody
you,
really gets
so
the
that was
best of
pretty
the
cool.
conversation. I mean, the only way he could really take that on was to be like, it doesn't matter, you know, in the totality of things. So that's the road he took, and I was disappointed by that as well. But at the end of the day, I knew it was unlikely that he was going to say a bad thing about Hassan. I was specifically trying not to even go there. In fact, when I showed him that first video of me talking about my views, I was kind of surprised that he actually had found something to criticize in it. I had said,
what was it? I don't remember.
Let me rewatch that clip, because I was quite surprised. Like from the beginning, this conversation did not go how I thought it would at all.
Right.
And it started with this clip here. Let me see.
You know they're liars and bad faith weirdos. So here's what I'll say about Israel, okay? Listen. This isn't the first time I've said it, and I'll say it many more times. The cabinet is run by genocidal maniacs, okay?
Mm-hmm.
They're led by Netanyahu, who should resign in disgrace and go to prison for being a war criminal.
Wow.
Okay? He's made a coalition of the most like radically conservative freaks that don't represent, by the way, the majority of Israelis.
He was saying that there's this talking point that I've seen percolating on the left, which is that, like, to put it kind of, to summarize it crassly, that like Israelis are evil.
It's time for the percolator.
Basically. I mean, to put it crassly,
time
right? Like that's kind of what he's saying. Is that like the majority of Israelis just want civilians to die? I mean, that's kind of what he said, and he didn't even deny it. I think that's insane. I think that's insane, and especially the context of this clip being 2 days after October 7th, I think it was. The sentiment was a lot different before and after and during and now. The sentiment in Israel's changed a lot. So when I said that, I think it was more accurate. I think it's still accurate, but obviously there is a huge problem in Israel of people being, you know, complicit and comfortable with what the military is doing.
Right, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, and I don't want to represent myself as an expert on any of this at all. So, if
opinion, Dan.
No, it's definitely not. Just from what I recall reading, is that prior to October 7th, support for giving the Palestinians a state in Israel was at basically an all-time high, and that has cratered since October 7th, which is the great one of the great tragedies of this whole situation, and kind of dark irony of it is it now feels like we are
it was the people that they attacked that were the very people who were the most pro Palestinian
we didn't
state.
discuss is that
The people
also
who were
the
in the kibbutzim.
Let me real-time fact check myself on that, because I mean that's a big claim.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that I'm right, but I seem to remember seeing polls that generally over the course of the last 10 years or so, support for.
I'm speaking like not just from stats, which I have looked up and seen polls and stuff, but like empirically. I lived in Tel Aviv for 5 years, and I know what the people are like there, right? And obviously, it's a progressive city.
That's likely one of the more progressive pockets.
It is.
In the country.
It's like Los Angeles or New York is. It's a progressive city, right? So, obviously, they'll be more inclined to want peace. But ultimately, what happened on October 7th that we didn't talk about is that a ton of the peace activists, like most of them, lived on the southern border specifically so they could help people in Gaza. They would drive people across the border to the hospital. They would help people get to and from work. They were advocating, they were doing what they could as individuals to help facilitate peace. And many of them, you hear their stories time and time again, were just murdered, slaughtered by Hamas. And I think that's part of what really jaded the Israeli public too. Is like, look what happens when you want to support peace.
Yeah. So what's crazy is that I remember like from one of the Israeli kidnappees, the video that from the girls that were being like captured by the group of soldiers, that there was one of them that was like, hey, here, take my friend's number. He lives in Gaza. Call him and tell him, like, tell him who you have. Like, tell him, like, basically, like, I'm one of the good ones. Like, I'm one of the good ones, guys. Like, don't do this to me. And that it was, like, really sad because, you see her, she's, like, scared for her life. She's pleading, and she's basically, like, trying to, like, how she's pleading is by basically saying, look, like, I'm one of the good ones. Like, don't do this. Like, don't do this to me. Like, I'm one of the good ones. Call my friend in Gaza. He'll tell you that I'm one of the good ones. And he was like, yeah, all right, bitch. You're a Sabaya now. And what is a Sabaya? Again, it's a sex slave. That's what that is. Okay?
Obviously, that's not, I don't think, the right conclusion, but that was their conclusion. It's like all the people that wanted peace were murdered by Hamas.
See, like I have, friends or family even that will say that they don't believe there's an innocent Israeli, and I think
you
obviously
do
stuff like that is super dangerous, and
I agree.
I'll never agree with that. But in terms of like the Pew research is often what's referenced, and again Sam brought that up that
Donald
was
Trump.
only
I think
19%
we know a couple
in
people. He
May
knows a couple
in
people
Israel
that might
from the
need to go to
poll who
Gaza.
thought that it went too far.
I'm just kidding.
And
I gotta see that poll.
Yeah,
that was from May.
Yeah, it was from May 2024. This is
Oh,
often
so
referenced.
It's a little old, but I don't know if that's changed. Let's see.
Well, it's May tomorrow, so it's basically a year old, right?
A minion is deserting.
Yeah.
I think, like, I totally agree that the public is way too comfortable and complicit in all this.
All right.
I think the question of do they want to end the war? I think this is. I mean, yeah, it's disturbing. You know what I mean? But let me see what this says. Israelis are divided over the country's military response. Percent who say Israel's military response against Hamas in Gaza has gone too far, been about right, not gone far enough, which is crazy, right? It's crazy. These are the radicals for sure. I think people who are like, yeah, it's been about right. It's more like, again, I'm maybe people will say I'm being too optimistic. I see that as like we've done enough, and like we've done everything we can do.
Yeah, but at that point in May, like they've already done so much
Well, I'm saying the people are saying, yeah, right. Like ideally, looking at it objectively, you would say it's gone too far.
Right.
But to be charitable, I think a lot of people who are saying it's been about right are trying to say that the war should end. We've done the right amount of it, and let's just end the war. I mean, not gone enough, far enough. 34% is fucking bananas, obviously. Like percentage who will say Israel will blank in achieving its goals in the war. Definitely fail, probably succeed, definitely succeed. 40%. So I mean, people in Israel have faith that
This
they'll
is
succeed. I don't even
that
know.
same one from back in May.
This is from
Or is
March
that more recent?
3rd to April 4th, 24.
2024. Okay, got it.
Yeah. I don't know where the war was or what it was happening back then. I think that might have been during the time of like the hot war,
Yeah, I'm not
which
sure.
I think tensions were even more peaked at that time. I don't know. Yeah, I mean it's disturbing. I don't deny that. But I also despise the way that Sam talks about the I don't see it being productive, being like Israelis are evil. I don't see the point of saying that. Like, and it's like, well, what do you want to do about it? You say the majority of Israelis want civilians to die, and it's like,
No, they don't.
why do they think that?
Why
you
would
know?
why would anyone
It's
think
just like,
that
well,
about
I don't know, but
anyone?
they're evil.
That's just
They just
dehumanizing.
don't care. They're just callous. I mean, look, human beings are human beings
That's
everywhere.
dehumanization. You know, that's what that is. He's right. Human beings are human beings.
A lot of
everywhere.
leftists don't want to engage in
Like, even if-
humanizing Israelis. They just
even these terrorists, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm pretty sure that a lot of them felt all kinds of ways when they did October 7th. They're even on video saying that, like, it was just horrible, the things that they were doing, and they were saying it. They were like, I can't even believe that like some guy, he R-worded a guy's father, R-worded a girl, and then killed her. Like, they all R-worded her anyway. And then after his father did it, he told him, like, oh yeah, no, I just killed her. Crazy. Like, but I'm sure that, I don't know how the father felt about it, because obviously, but he was, like, expressing, like, extreme, like, remorse over it. He was saying how they're no better than, that Hamas is no different than ISIS. He called them Daesh. He said they're the same as Daesh, which I guess means ISIS.
Salaries paid.
don't want to do it because
an agent has been captured.
Right, like what's happening in Gaza is awful, and they think that it's insignificant in comparison. And I understand where they're coming from, of course. But I believe that both are important, and obviously, again, the totality of what's happening in Gaza is not in dispute about which is like more. But I do think that
I command you
it's
to
important,
ignore that
and I care
minion.
about Israel, and I care about Israelis. You know, that's it. And so I choose to see the good, and to see the optimistic, and like obviously I have no effect over what the public thinks about the war. I'm not fucking living there. I'm not. When I was living there, I voted against Netanyahu. And by the way, Netanyahu lost the popular vote. He only won because he made a coalition with some psychopath like ultra-nationalists. But the left party, when I voted, won the popular vote because of the parliamentary system.
The agent refused to
where
answer
you make
our
coalitions
questions.
to get over 50%. They were
An
unable
agent has been
to
subdued
secure
and captured.
the victory.
I think Netanyahu may be the devil. Like, honestly, even his voice, I think he may be the fucking devil. And he's just passing out beepers to everyone. He gave the gold beeper to Trump.
Dude, that's so fucked
He gave
up.
one to his senator. And
I think that's so
or a congressman. I forget who it was. He's like, yo, that
it was John Fetterman. I
yeah,
remember.
he's like, yo, that was dope when you guys did that. I have a family friend whose son had a beeper go through his stomach.
An interrogation has
and it's
succeeded.
just fucking
I just
crazy.
don't.
The president's like
Intel.
taking a picture with the
No,
fucking
I don't think
beeper.
just like lionizing people dying is just fucking bad and
Yeah,
terrible
that's
in general.
horrible.
Him handing out those beepers is like nauseating. Like, what are you doing, dude?
I don't disagree with
Crazy.
anything they're saying.
I mean, that's
he's trying to make a point.
Yeah, he is. You're right.
Interrogation success.
He is.
An agent has given us their secrets.
But ultimately, I think that's ultimately where we break down, is that I'm more optimistic about the Jewish or the Israeli public.
Or just human beings.
And
Just
I
human
just think
beings
it's
in
insane
general.
that people want to call me, treat me like I'm the bad guy in this whole equation, like I'm the one that's supporting, this happening. It's just I've never said anything that showcases that. I've been consistent with my beliefs over the years. Hassan is pathetically typing in our chat again. I can talk now or Friday. I don't care. Up to you. Please don't try to bring a band. Bro, don't worry. I'm not doing that. You're afraid I'm going to bring on Destiny? That's stupid. I'm not going to do that. Stop. I promise you, Hassan.
Here, Destiny.
I will not bring on Destiny. In fact, the people here will not allow me to bring on Destiny.
Fuck no.
I'm interested, Hassan, in being honest. You know, I'm going to take back what I said about you pathetically in the chat, okay? I'm going to be gracious
He
here.
was bravely typing in our chat.
You're bravely typing in our chat that I'm not interested in trickery. As you can see at my conversation with Sam, I want to have an honest conversation with you, and that's what I plan to do on Friday.
Good job, H3. I mean,
So
could have gone better, I think.
That's
pushed back
where
on
I'm
some more
at.
stuff, but hey, it was a conversation.
Yeah,
We
don't
had
worry, I'm
one.
not doing it.
By the way, and this is why I prefaced what I was saying was I'm not an expert. Finding polling, I was wrong saying that support for a two-state solution was at a high. Looks like it kind of plateaued around 55% throughout the 2010s. But it was at a high in 2010 of 71% of Israelis supported two-state solution.
Wow.
It looks like that number is now in like the 20s.
2010. That's interesting. That's about
15 years
when
ago.
I was living there.
Is it? Yeah.
I don't know.
You don't remember when you moved there?
Not really. That was 15 years ago, so I would have been. Crunch.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on with my internet. I need to be able to use my internet properly so I can work. So I need to shut that off. I think it's maybe it's just taking up too much of my bandwidth. Because my shit is going crazy. I can't see my trades. Not reset my computer or something, maybe. Maybe end the stream here. Stop using as much bandwidth. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna end the stream for a little bit. I'm gonna go back and switch. No politics. Just chatting and chilling and taking over the world. Oh wow, it came back. Oh no. Alright.